A regionally appropriate good afternoon, but a very good morning as well to everyone. As now we shift over to our European side of the bracket for the focus for our next matchup. Before we get into that, though, we will take a look at the bracket for the European side of things and get you guys ready for this matchup, which is, of course, going to be between Wolves and WYLDE on this side of the bracket. Once again, just like the Korean and Japan region, we have invited or qualified 4 teams into this direct event. We will actually take a quick look as well at our South Korea and Japan brackets, of course, so that has now come to a close for the day. Sandbox finding their own 2-0 victory against Crest Gaming to earn their spot in the grand final tomorrow. And of course, as we just saw here on this stream, Cyclops with the very swift 2-0 at 7-2, followed by a 7-1 there on our most recent map against Talon here to earn their own place in the grand final, setting up that best of 5 between both Sandbox and Cyclops, which is going to be going on tomorrow. And I believe the two of us will be bringing that final to you, of course, over on the main stream tomorrow morning.
Yes, indeed. Bound to be a lot of fun, but now it's down to the nitty-gritty of what we have here today. It's the European semifinals, John. We've got Team BDS up against M&M Gaming and Wolves up against WYLDE. You and I will be handling the latter half of this bracket, Wolves versus WYLDE, which is quite interesting, actually, because these two teams face off against each other most recently at the last stage of the Major Last Chance qualifier. The final of that actually went to the Wolves in a 2-0 fashion, as they were one of our European representatives at the most recent Major.
Yep, Wolves were able to deny a major entry to WYLDE. WYLDE obviously going to be looking for some revenge on that today, as they'll attempt to deny Wolves their own possible berth into one of the only near major-like events here in Rainbow Six outside, of course, of Ubisoft's primary calendar. We'll see if they can get that outright revenge, or if Wolves will reign supreme with the repeat victory themselves here. Last time these two teams faced off, it was a 2-0 in the favor of Wolves, as they won both Oregon and Villa to close down that series. We'll, of course, take a look at our own map veto for this series in just a moment, and we'll talk more about those maps when we get closer to it. But that is the marker here that WYLDE is looking to improve upon. And you can see our teams once again in front of you here. WYLDE looking to try and improve that 0-2 start, if not look for the outright victory here today, so that they can be the one to move forward and face off against M&M or our other team from the other side of the bracket.
Well, here we go. Some of my favorite Frenchmen in the likes of the Wolves, as well as some of my favorite legacy players in the likes of WYLDE. John, what do you have to say about this? Personally, for me, I gotta give the slight edge to Wolves. They looked pretty good at the major, and when it comes down to WYLDE, I definitely think they have that play style that can stand the test of time when it comes to Europe. But Wolves have just been so strong throughout, the last year, and that's even with roster changes coming in. I don't really think that they're gonna miss out on an event like this.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. There is obviously the issue of Wolves having shown their hand, as it were, at the major itself, and unfortunately not being able to make it probably as far as they would have liked, squeaking out only that first stage finish for themselves, not being able to push it any further than that, I don't believe. So going to be looking to try and obviously give themselves a second berth for some more prize pool to be potentially earned, of course, not only through our charitable donations today, but of course through the main event itself if they're able to qualify for it. I do believe we have the video ready, though, talking to one of our teams. So let's go ahead and throw it over to that now and see a little bit about how WYLDE, I believe, was getting prepped for this event.
Hey guys, my name is Backbull. I'm a professional Rainbow Six Siege player for WYLDE, and I'm 21 years old. On WYLDE, I play as IGL and hard support. I think our strengths as a team are we're very unpredictable. I think teams are going to have a hard time prepping for us. Weaknesses, we haven't been a team for a long time, so in the best of threes, best of fives, they can be tough, but we've shown ourselves in the best of ones, and in the past best of threes, we definitely put up a fight, so we're coming for the win. We're feeling really prepared for GWB and gamerswithoutborders this year, so we're hoping to show you guys what we've been working on. We've had about a month since our last game, so we've had a lot to prep in that time. So yeah, our last game against Wolves, they won. It was a close defeat. All maps were pretty close, and we're looking to take revenge on them. We know what we messed up on last time, and we're going to fix those mistakes this time. For us, we wouldn't really be satisfied with anything less than qualifying to gamerswithout. GWB, we want to win. We've been outworking all the other teams, both in the server and outside of it. I know that for sure, and they better be ready, because we are. Our motivation for this tournament is really just to prove ourselves and redeem redeem ourselves for not qualifying to the most recent major. We were so close. We had 3 chances to qualify and we just barely missed out on each one. We were really disappointed with ourselves, and we're hoping to kind of redeem that with GWB. I think all the teams in GWB are top teams. Anyone can make it, so we don't have anyone particular that we're looking out for, but I know all 4 of these teams can put on a good show, and we're excited to play each one of them. Thank you guys to everyone that's been supporting Wild, either new fans or long term. We've been putting in a lot of work, so we appreciate that you guys can recognize the work we've been putting in, and we're going to do everything we can to win this for you.
So as we come back to us one more time to get ready for the commencement of the matchup, ladies and gentlemen, we can talk a little bit more about maps, I do believe, as we get ready, of course, to jump into this game itself. We'll have the video up on screen in just a moment, and take a quick peek, of course, at where these teams have selected to play things out. Will be a best of 3, so that's going to be one thing for Wild as well. They mentioned it there over the course of that interview that is one of their weaknesses. They are a newer roster, as those more extended series can be a problem. We're going to have to hope that they've patched that up, of course, as that's really all this tournament is long-winded series, as you'll have that best of 3, and as we mentioned, of course, for our Japan and Korea matchup earlier, it goes right into a best of 5, so you're going to have to hope that your wits are about you for that. Here is where the map videos took us, though. We have changed out one of the 2 maps from the previous attempt that these teams played out against each other. Villa has stayed in from that previous attempt. We have now swapped out Oregon for Chalet as the initial pick instead from Wolves this time around, as they're going to be looking for the 2-0 shutdown yet again.
Chalet, Villa, and Kafe. So something to do with snow here. We also are, for some reason, taking a trip over to LA for a little bit, but we'll have to see what they can get done here. Or rather, we're taking a trip to Italy, not LA. I was thinking bank there for just a split second, but no. We're going to be headed on over to Italy for Villa. So a lot of different circumstances here. I definitely like that we're starting things out on Chalet. Quite the map, especially from the offensive perspective, and both of these teams quite strong when it comes down to maps like this. So definitely interested to see what both of these teams are bringing to the table today.
Just to talk about things from an individual perspective, again, looking back to the last time these 2 teams played out against each other, there are certain players that Wild needs to get control of if they want to find repeated success on a round-around basis as well. We were seeing an example of how that can become a problem with players like Anaton, of course, being allowed to do what they do best and kick some butt in that previous series there. And those players are going to be, again, looking over at the Wolves side of things. They're going to be players like P4, who had a 27-19 ratio over the course the team has played over the previous series. Quite a few of them as well, still able to, even aside from him, kind of keep themselves in pretty positive shape, so that needs to be contained. Players need to find a better footing there with that unpredictable play style and get around the more structured play that we were generally going to be getting out of the Wolves, of course, having built up their roster over years and years, and with a decent amount of organizational support coming in behind them as well from the Wolves in the form of like analysts and very strong coaching support staff. So it's 2 very different sides of the same region here that we're going to be getting, and it is that ultimately that inter-regional matchup too. So there's not really going to be, at least in my opinion, a whole lot of things that these teams will necessarily be able to hide from each other, especially with such an impromptu best of 3 happening today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key thing is that these players play against each other very, very often. And I think that the most recent showcasing of what the Wolves had to offer up against Wild will probably rear its ugly head once again here. We didn't see too much out of Wild when it came down to it. Just a strong showing from the likes of Aces, but past that, not really all that much happening from them. And that's really what you expect out of Aces' rosters usually, as well as him popping off and then everybody else kind of in the midst of things. A couple of people bubbling up to the surface. T3B having 18 kills inside of that last series, but past that, everybody else kind of falling towards the wayside when it comes down to it. So hopefully we have some stronger roster showing out of Wild when it comes to this matchup here, especially on a map like Chalet, which we'll jump into here shortly.
Yep, so once again, that does put the pressure, at least for me, as we shift our focus rather towards predictions here now, that does put the pressure onto Wild to improve their own performance, because I personally think the Wolves, even with their recent struggles at the major, of course, still should be able to take a pretty to be able to handily take, excuse me, getting a little late now, control of this matchup here and be able to try and earn that spot in the grand finals. What we'll have to see is Wild, like they mentioned again inside of that video, played a very close series, even though it was ultimately a 2-0 against them. Maybe going to be able to extend that into a third map or potentially flip some of those maps outright into their own favor to steal that glory away this time, especially considering, of course, they're looking to make another return to G8, being one of the teams that went there last year.
Yeah, you know, it's really just, does Wild have the answers for what we'd seen previously from Wolves? Because the key thing is that the Wolves are very, very strong at their team play, although sometimes it will take them a little bit of time, right? But they can still get some really, really big plays going on, even if the beginning of their round takes them quite a while. So we'll see if Wild really has anything to say about that, what circumstances befall them throughout this series. The good news is that once again, they have a best of 3 to try and iron out some of these details and see if they can try and get a couple rounds over on the Wolves.
Just a little bit of a housekeeping refresher, as it looks like we're just waiting a little bit longer, folks, for some of our players to hop into the server. Should be starting momentarily, though, assuming that there are no issues with the server. So we got snagged up a little bit, of course, on our previous series. But, of course, we are going to be continuing on with the action tomorrow for Europe, having both of the best of 5s being played. We will not have this stream, the Bravo stream, tomorrow. And we're going to be focusing up having both of those regions get played out over on the main streams. You're going to have one pretty lengthy best of 5 played for the KR as well as Japan region. And then on top of that, we'll shift over to Europe and play that very same best of 5 for the European region. Important to know, of course, we'll have 2 sets of casters on that stream tomorrow. So we will be splitting the workload, of course, with X and Demo over there. And then as we move over, that would be a rough day. And then as we move over towards day number 3, of course, we shift the regional focus, doing the same exact thing we were doing today and tomorrow, of course, for the Korean, Japan, as well as European regions for the North American and South American regions to qualify those 2 teams, one from each region, of course, over to the main event at G8 and give out those regions worth of the charitable prize pool as well. All that, of course, unfolding not throughout just the rest of today, but over the next 3 days here as we work our way through the entirety of the Gamers Without Borders primary event to wind ourselves up, of course, for the main event at Gamers 8 in just a few months' time as we head into the summer.
Yeah, huge event last year, and a lot of teams really, really excited to try and get in this year and see if they can win things out at Gamers 8, try and bump up that prize pool for the whole year, and see what they got going on. I'm excited to see what they have, some of the funner tidbits, because last year, John, didn't they have like $100,000 for the person that had the most kills, which is just. That is incredible. So I'm excited to see if they have some things like that going. Maybe the team that plants the most has like another bonus or something like that. I don't know. It could be pretty cool. So we'll have to see exactly what we get on down the line with this whole setup.
I think Shaiko won one of those, at least if I recall last year.
I am not surprised in the slightest. Look me in the face. Do I look surprised to you? I don't look.
Is that a Shaiko or one of the Falcons players? I forget which one ended up having it. I think.
Do the Falcons players have had a heck of a year? At least coming from this time last year to now, they've been looking great, man. They're starting to get a lot more representation across the globe in Rainbow Six Siege. It's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, I would like to see them gone a little bit further at the major. I had my hopes pegged pretty high for them, actually. But again, I think that's just that. Same with like the team from the Mexico region as well. I think that's more of just an experience difference more than anything there that needs to be made up. And hopefully now that they've had that experience over in Copenhagen itself, they're going to be able to kind of build on that as we wind up for stage 2 getting into the fall, and maybe see a little bit more of a further push from both of those teams realistically when they hit the USA major sometime deeper in the fall, I do believe.
Yeah, a lot of these teams with quite a bit of time to try and figure themselves out, do some soul searching, and see what they can do with this end result. That there is so much time to try and change yourself and see what you liked about your play style, what necessarily wasn't beneficial to what your outcomes were, and see if you can try and make some adjustments that can help you on down the line. So, and that all starts here today, especially for these 2 teams. These 2 teams are hotly contesting a lot of the squads in the EU region, not only this last stage, but also at the most recent SIs. So it'll be high time for us to kind of get a little sneak preview of what they've been working on, for the Wolves here for the last couple of weeks, and for Wild, well, about the last month and a half.
Yeah, Wolves obviously come into this one a little bit less stressed out, you could say, from the major themselves. They've been able to kind of focus up on this qualifier specifically. More importantly for their specific opponent today, a little bit more so than Wolves have, who only just came back from the major like about a week and a few days ago, and have only just now been able to kind of shape up their focus for this specific game, and of course, potentially for the follow-up game tomorrow if they end up going up against M&M or the other team on that opposite side of the bracket. Still, two very lengthy games to prep for, though, so quite a bit that can be prepared. Today is going to be the lighter of the two pieces of fare, so you can expect, obviously, if either of these teams do make it through, for them to be a little bit more prepped for that game tomorrow, as that's the big one, of course, not just for earning the prize pool to donate to charity, but to potentially qualify for G8, where you're, just by qualifying, going to lock in a pretty considerable prize pool, I do believe, for yourself, once all the information has gone out for that event. It's definitely one of the biggest events of the year for Rainbow Six in terms of player-given prize pool, so teams are not going to want to miss an opportunity to get a nice little boost to their salary, especially as things are going to be looking a little bit dry aside from that, at least as far as that have been announced here on the competitive calendar throughout the summer.
You gotta avoid those GTRs somehow, man. You know, you gotta make sure those car bills are
that's more NA.
paid.
We gotta talk about that, but
Yeah. I mean, dude, Europe, they still get some pretty expensive cars over there. Okay, I've seen a couple of things. I think Goga's got like one of the most beautiful Subarus I've ever seen in my life. He's got a 22B, so
nice.
He spent some some pretty good money on that thing. But yeah, man. Gamers 8 definitely one of the bigger events for the year, like you were saying, and one that definitely a lot of players looking and keeping their eye out for, as it's one of the more wallet-serving ones of the year, let's say. So. But what's even cool past that is our little qualifier here that we have going on as well. Not just helping them try and go on this journey to see if they can potentially compete at Gamers 8, John, but also some charity going out here as well. Potentially $300,000 to the winner here, going to the charity of their choice. So pretty cool stuff all around going on with Gamers 8.
Once again, folks, just waiting on players to join the server. We are, on the production side of things, all set and ready to go here. Oh, and I think we are just about ready to hop into the game now. So let's get ourselves into it, ladies and gentlemen, as we'll get started with map number 1 of this series. Change up from the last time these two teams played each other, which was quite recently, about a month and a half or so ago, for the tail end of the European LCQs for the most recent major. Instead of playing to Oregon for map number 1, though, we are going to switch that up, play into Chalet instead. But it's the same lineup, so let's see if WYLDE can get their revenge, or if Wolves look for the repeat of the 2-0 that befell them the last time they played against this opponent. Ying is going to be the first ban. Makes perfect sense. We've been seeing that massive increase to Ying play over the past season or so, and Chalet is one of her strongest maps, so knock her right out of the pool. Thatcher as well, very useful for taking out that insight utility, as well as a few of the kind of powerful reinforced walls that Bandit will be assisting with, so best to knock him out as well to remove that ease of access piece of utility for WYLDE here.
Two of these defensive bans are going to be this is the usual line that we'll see when it comes to ban on Chalet. Azami going to come out to play as well, and looks like we won't be seeing too much of her. And once again, just another very strong ban, as she can lock up a lot of different odds and ends of the sites, and we're going to wrap this up with a nice little Valkyrie ban as well. So a little damage to the info game. Won't be able to keep as much info going on the outskirts of the sites. So we'll see what Wolves can do with that. But now it's time for an EU bout between WYLDE and Wolves. Let's get into this.
Absolutely the case. Expect a bit more Solus play because of that one, although it'll be site dependent, so it doesn't look like we'll get much of it here on site number 1. It'll be a bit more localized into the actual site area itself, so that Solus won't have as much playtime with the enemy drones as she might normally be able to navigate. There's anything when it comes to directly countering out some of that utility entry power that we would normally get. Speaking of some interesting picks here, WYLDE gonna throw us for a loop right on round number 1 as Packbull at least soft locks the Blackbeard, but we are going to see that repicked out pretty quickly, as one might expect. We don't often get a whole lot of Blackbeard, although he does occasionally pop up more recently from time to time. It seems right now that they do need the basement attack utility, so they're going to bring the Capital in instead. And the Track Stingers as well will be picked up by Hungry, which is another thing we don't always get to see. But for this site specifically, will be a very nice piece of utility, more than anything, if they're able to get to a post-plant phase of the round. If they fail to reach that point, going to be a little bit worse for wear, more than likely, but once they're able to get that case down to the ground, more than likely through Snowmobile Garage, that utility is going to become incredibly useful for just outright denying most of the attempts from Wolves to jump back out there and retake it themselves.
We're definitely into Europe, aren't we? There is a lot going on across the board when it comes to not only the map, but also what this offense is going for. Teb's going to begin breaking things down on the main walls. Trying to see if he can potentially get a nice little line of sight here. Find out if somebody's managing the two panels. But for Wolves, this is a full-on roam setup. We've got the escape hatch set up inside of kitchen. Mowgli will rotate through. Hungry as well as the ace of, well, aces will be working their way in towards big garage. So Mowgli's going to come down low. Nobody actually managing West Main. He's going to get away with this. He may be able to rotate in and drop right back into sight. I like the setup here from WYLDE. They were trying to address this from the big garage area, you know, and try and direct it in towards that direction and have Teb kind of hold that counter angle over on the main panels, but it doesn't work out for him.
Hungry once again going to try to limit some of that rotation potential, trying to more actively block off some of the usual paths we might see players like what we just got out of Mowgli being taken. Unfortunately, a little bit late to the party when it comes to the Tracksters, of course, on the West Main stairs themselves, so it's more to prevent future instances of aggression here. As we can see, T3B is also rotated away. Is now trying to work that sidewall. Pretty much has it pre-ironed out here, but there we go. There's the denial against Mowgli from what we were talking about before. Has to be quite loud to get in the way of that one, so that is a siren call for Aces to peek around the corner and pick up a second kill through the smoke as well. Beautifully found against Deadshot. This is a 2-0 lead for him against the one that's been found against Packable. Aces continues to harass out all of the presence from Wolves. Project to continue it as well. Finding Bibu, bringing it all down on the Shinka. Shinka battling back though. And no, okay, oh my goodness, isn't actually able to deny the plant right there. Had an opportunity to try and extend the play, but it's a miracle he makes it in as deep into the setup as he was able to do. Ultimately, of course, seeing that round fall very comfortably under the control of WYLDE when it is said and done.
Aces with a detrimental play there as he is destructive to the Wolves setup. Not a single leg of that to stand for the defensive squad. They're able to at least keep, you know, WYLDE at bay initially, but Aces quickly shutting them down on every single gunfight that he can garner. And even the ones that he can't, he just sprays through the smoke. As simple as that. Takes down Deadshot. Very, very fantastic showcasing of Ace's ability in the opening round there. Now Wolves, they're going to quickly try and change up their fate. So they're going to go to Games and Bar. It's going to force him to hold on to this top floor. That's where Shinka comes into play on this Mira. Have to try and deal some solid damage to WYLDE early here. They were able to at least limit their play once again, right? But Wolves just not really able to get too much done when it came down to the actual gunfights.
The Aces just taking full control of things as well does not help their case in any sense of the word. Aces being given all the intel and more that he needed to play things out aggressively there from the POV of the Ace and just shut it all down. So beautifully done by him as he obviously leads the charge and some support that still came in very much warranted from Jegs there to keep WYLDE in a strong position to outright shut that round down. So a strong lead established for them. Now it's time for Wolves to respond, of course. They do go for a little bit of an out there hold in the basement for the first round. So now we return to what normally has been a much more defendable site for this defensive half. And we'll see if that remains the case for Wolves. And they do have quite a bit of a heavy amount of presence in the basement, which is going to throw off some of this early clear from WYLDE here. You can see Aces, at least one other member of the WYLDE roster. They're going to cut some of this off. Aces just a little bit late there on that pre-fire going through the barricade, as he nearly is able to catch at least one rotation from Shinka. But like I said, missed the party by a few seconds.
Attackers have dropped the bomb diffuser.
Gemini's gone dark. Calling them.
Oh, WYLDE. Logic bomb out. Oh, I thought it was the Mav there for a split second, but it's Cap instead, as he'll take down Mowgli. Wolves, they cannot try and buy a single just advantage right now. Not around, nothing. Really coming their way inside of this opener here. Packball will work his way in down low. Makes himself a nice Mav hole. The second logic bomb available here to Hungry, and a nice addition here to the lower, bar stock areas. They'll torch a line there. Shinko will be able to at least take down one. So they fought back to an equal advantage, but Hungry, just really the question there, going a little bit too far now, and they've been punished because of it. And not only that, they've lost so many drones from this offensive perspective.
Time is still in excess, at least for the time being, for WYLDE, so they at least have that benefit to play off of. Like you mentioned, though, with minimal drone count, the benefit will be minimal from the excess time here. They won't really be able to abuse it by sending all their drones in to reconfirm Wolves' own positions. With that said, though, Jegs still strikes next with his overwatch from outside of the big billiards window. Shuts down at least one more member of this team. T3B cuts off the rest of the defense from the other side, and this should be a pretty straightforward shutdown, but P4 trying to battle out of it, gets at least one more for his team. Ultimately, though, WYLDE will retain the control they've had for most of this round, similarly to the first one, and take things down, ultimately, into their own control to lead 2-0.
Well, WYLDE able to get things going so far on this offensive side. Yes, Wolves setting up successfully and having what seems to be a, strong defensive setup, but WYLDE able to bunker bust it every time with some pretty creative, plays here, especially coming out of the MAV torch that we saw down low, getting access to the garage and quickly torching the back room so the Mira isn't nearly as, a big of an advantage in the way of the defense. Just such a well-thought-out strategy from WYLDE so far. Not exactly giving the Wolves what they want, but yet still ending up with a result that they want at the end of the day.
Wolves are going to keep things interesting, or rather WYLDE, I should say, are going to keep things interesting here as well. Hungry with a very fun repick coming in there in spot number 4 of the attacker's side. As the Blitz may make its reappearance once again. For anybody who watched the tail end of our previous series, you saw what Hamilton can do with an operator. Not even this one necessarily, just one with a shield in hand here. He's going to try to work it similar fashion as we'll try to blitz, no pun intended, their way forward into this opening setup that Wolves are going to try to play heavily into for delay and ultimately not allow that delay to occur. So let's see how successful they will be, as they are going to have to work for at least a few seconds here. Expect about a minute or so to be drained off the clock to try and open up a safe path, at least for Hungry, to start his push forward.
Well, T3B will ascend into the sky and hold the cross for now. Gotta let the upside down positioning here for him. Able to suss out the mirror window. Try and play that in towards its angle. So Brava in down low, and this could be the big play for Aces, but Mowgli, he discovers him. No drones in play to try and assist in Bibu. He doesn't even need the glasses, John. He's a heat-seeking missile. He takes out Pack Bull. Hungry will be able to at least take out one, but not really too much to go off of now as Mowgli will garner another, and P4 shuts him down. The repeat, the aggressive take. Gonna be another smoke out here for T3. He'll take out one, but the Nitro cell out to pick up the big round now for the Wolves, as they'll finally get it done. They'll find the entry point of WYLDE, and they'll nip it in the bud.
See that shield ADS mentality is spreading now. WYLDE are trying it too after we've seen how successful it could be at the major, how well it worked for Anaton at the tail end of that previous series. It doesn't work for everyone, as we see right there, though. WYLDE unfortunately losing that player and a heck of a lot more in their first overstep so far on the attacking side. They're going to be allowed to do that, of course. They've already got the 2 rounds onto the board here. Going to be expected to pick up about 3 or 4 from this half, so already outpacing that sort of expected scoreline here. As long as they're able to quickly rebound on a course correction, just kind of slow things down, keep playing that more methodical strategy we saw in the first 2 rounds, and then build that snowball onto the site once you feel it's appropriate. They're still going to be in a commanding position, but at the same time, Wolves subverting their own expectations, finding a little bit more power out of the aggression they tried to bring to the table there in the early round. WYLDE will still have to contend against similar things like that, as we'll be expecting a default setup to come from Wolves here on their kitchen hold.
10 seconds to go.
Reconstructive surgery still to deal with on site for Shinka, but Wolves are probably very happy about the previous round's result, as it was kind of difficult for them off rip to try and get one over on WYLDE, but definitely not now. Mowgli, he stepped away for a second, John. He went to the bathroom, he looked himself in the mirror, and he said, "Are you going to lose to WYLDE?"
Did he window open for that kill, or was that just
yes, he did. Absolutely.
Was it the bathroom window, I guess? Or?
It was all the windows, John.
But that's what I'm saying. There's only 1 window broken right now. They still have the
no, there's 2. There's one in master and there's one in bathroom.
Oh,
Check
okay.
yourself.
Right.
Check yourself, sir.
It's a little hard to do that, but a little slow to check myself right now. We're going with things, but we'll see if I can improve that now. It's T3B obviously being very careful on that window angle, given what just happened to his teammate. I think from the same window.
Yeah,
if not
Jags
the
is
bedroom one.
definitely not happy. He is not happy with what just happened to him. He took probably like 3 steps out of spawn and immediately
paid
died.
the
So
price for that.
yeah, unfortunate
You stepped
now.
the
but-
wrong 3 steps today, sir.
Indeed, indeed. But now Aces might be able to do something about this. He's going to sludge open the door. They've got some verticality working to the floor there, so actually if somebody's sneakily worked their way in towards Fireplace, they could get away with this. T3B getting away with quite a bit, actually, as he's going to garner himself quite a few pieces of utility. Oh, that was a little awkward with that window there. I thought he was going to get shot in the back for a split second with that window there for West Main, but Wolves player not checking it. Might not be open either, as there's quite a few of these different array of windows that we have seen getting some play, at least inside of this round. Wild not really wanting to try and step inside the building yet. A lot of their drones still up for the cause, but nobody really dedicated to them at the current moment. We do have Hungary trying to drone around as of now, but I mean, nothing found and therefore nothing gained.
Wolves have been able to make Wild second guess most of their attempted aggressive advances here, and you can see them trying to build up the confidence to rebirth into it, but by losing half their nades, they haven't necessarily set themselves up too well to do that. Thankfully, T3B still strikes true, is able to finally make his mark against Deadshot, who's been struggling a little bit when it comes to the potential fragging power so far in this game at 0-4 here. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more out of him later on in either the game or the series. P4, though, is still up to the challenge, just like he was the last time these two teams played each other, and strikes first here for Wolves inside of the round. But the pinch coming forward is going to continue to challenge not just him, but Bibu as well, as he gets taken down on the stairs. Shinka with an exchange back, but once more, Packful taking command here from the backside of the dining room push, knocks out Shinka as a response to the kills the Wolves just found. Keeping it even, down to a 2 versus 2. Hungary tries to deny the presence, but it'll in fact unleash it onto the site as Mowgli takes out both the remaining members of Wild.
That Nitro cell from P4 was so very close. Milliseconds from going off as he destroyed it, but unfortunately not enough for Wild, as quickly the Wolves have been able to right their wrongs and tie this up 2-2 now on their Chalet defenses.
Just a little bumpy dealing with some of the more forward aggression from Wild in those first 2 rounds. They have, once again, as mentioned previously, kind of corrected upon that quickly, making Wild second, or rather double, if not triple check a few of these things, and that's slowing down the pacing enough now to where Wolves are finding their own capability to make aggressive plays and either trade out some of the early advances from Wild or stop those advances from being made in the first place. Kind of making them respect them a little bit more here and slowing down the pace to a much more normal take speed here. We'll see if that applies to some of the other sites here, as Wolves finally extend back over to the basement as well, where we saw that first round get played out quite convincingly into the hands of Wild, and they'll look to repeat that same success yet again here to still maintain the lead and what would be a 3-2 scoreline now for either team, regardless of who takes this round.
Are we going for it? Oh, we are indeed. Shinka gonna set up the dining room for an aggressive look over towards the Fireplace Hall area. Is actually going to drop off as well, and there's really no means for Wild to try and solve this puzzle, at least from an outside perspective. They're going to have to try and hop into kitchen or, this tail end of the map over here towards the north side to try and get rid of that mirror window from the, just disadvantageous side of it. So see what they can do with that. We'll seemingly go back towards very similar circumstances as before. T3B will make his torch line and try and set up here over on the south side. He's breached the garage and then start transitioning up towards the library end of things.
Very slow fallback there from T3B, as he does not want a repeat of the same mistakes made by Wild. On the outset of a few of these previous rounds, not wanting to get tripped up by some of the early aggression from Wolves. Give credit to Wolves, though. They have pretty much peeled back most, if not all, of said aggression here for their basement holds. They need to focus up more on the inside setup. They were getting tripped up by trying to get flashy with their play back on round 1, so have now curtailed that, it would appear at least, in an immediate correction. Try and not get tripped up in a similar way. With that said, though, we do still have kind of the natural extensions up onto the first and second floor, where Wolves are hoping that if it gets ignored, which is currently happening, they can then collapse upon that through the west main and other staircases and put the pressure right back onto WYLDE. But you've got those track stingers in play for the attack, so they have a pretty safe hard counter themselves to those re-rotations from the Wolves. So this is going to become a little bit of a game of whose strategy pans out best. And unfortunately, we won't really know the answer until we see the kills come to a stoppage. Cinco, though, puts some immediate pressure back onto some of the advances being made by WYLDE. WYLDE only able to sneak off 1 kill so far to P4's now 2 that he has also found. WYLDE down 2 players overall. On top of the damage that was done by Shinka, but he's going to get burned out of position. Thankfully moves pretty much instantaneously, and no actual bullet damage will come from that. Just going to be the position cleared back out, and as well the rotation back down through West Main denied, as WYLDE are still doing a good job of holding onto those angles.
Might have the angles, but do not have the bodies as of now. It's going to be hard fought to try and work their way back into this site, but there's one beneficial factor, and it's the fact that some of these Wolves players are slightly injured that could definitely assist them in these circumstances. But Deadshot's going to be the first one to find his mark. T3B fires back through these MAV holes that you've made on the boiler side. Jags, he's worked his way in towards Big Garage, knows that there's one around the fridge, but no, the stuns come out. Bibu will swing in. T3B's been discovered as well, as he's still stuck between a rock and a hard place in his previous position. Wolves will take advantage of Chalet after a 3-round in a row burner.
And with that round, both in terms of the scoreline and the overall pacing of play that we've been seeing here, it's really safe to say, at least from my POV, that Wolves have started to take command of this matchup, shifting the pressure over to WYLDE now to kind of adapt to their own play style and find those direct counters, as Wolves will begin to, of course, re-rotate through the already won site, starting off with a bar here. Need a better way to clear out not just the natural extensions, which WYLDE don't seem to be struggling too much with, but it's more that insight pressure that WYLDE are having a little bit of an issue clearing out directly. They need to try and either speed up their pace of play or bring better utility to clear out the insides of that site to try and correct that issue and still keep this a close 3-3 scoreline by winning at least one more here at the tail end of the half.
Back to old reliable here for Wolves. The mirror windows will come back out to play, and it'll be back to the top floor for them. Some other pieces to this puzzle to try and slow down some other things that we could see out of WYLDE, like the flank play that we saw in lower garage. Those Banshees will be in play to try and slow that up, and some other hatch play to come out as well here for Wolves. So WYLDE will be quick to the trigger, so break up some windows on the library side, but making sense across the board here. Quite a bit of soft destruction here for them that could bode pretty successful, especially for breaking up some of these lines of sight and other things around the map that they'll be looking for.
Still playing out very slowly for WYLDE as they try to correct on the issues discovered over the previous rounds here. Wolves have been doing a fantastic job of finding aggressions at the right place at the right times. Never really throwing themselves, as we were seeing the first few rounds at WYLDE. WYLDE cannot right now use that aggression, but at the same time, not keeping themselves completely contained to the inside of the site either, whether that's off-site anchors or something similar. It's generally been working out okay for the Wolves here the past few rounds, although we are going to see a pretty decent start for WYLDE, especially if they can recover Jags. But oh, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. P4 now finds the direct exchange onto Wolves with an aggressive advance onto one of the windows by the front lobby. An unexpected position to be sure, but it unfortunately catches WYLDE off guard here. Thankfully, they are able to correct upon that, trade it back, and they do complete the recovery of Jags. They're still not in the worst position possible. Wolves, though, with a little bit of potential aggression from Bibu coming up through those blue stairs, has to call it off, though, as he spots a drone about halfway up the staircase.
Well, slowing things down now. P4 looking to see if they can find the next mark here. Aces with a fantastic cross, and he reads it well. Won't be able to take down P4, but now mismanaged here. Almost a kill coming in from lobby, and that would have been the big strike that Wolves needs to try and bounce back to claim this round. On a hot streak right now, do not want to allow WYLDE to tie this up, and looks like both of those chances will go to the wayside. P4 with a big adjustment. Let's have Jaeger down low as well. Shinka with a nice cross, but he's been discovered from Jags. Probably just saw the top of that helmet, and they'll hop 2 in towards sight. Nice angle here. P4 claims 1, but it's going to be the hatch work now for Wild as it gets knocked down into a 3 versus 2.
Massive game of patience being played by both teams right now, but the problem is Wild is on the attacking side. They ultimately have to change up that pacing sooner rather than later, and that potential force of their play is putting them into a bit of an uncomfortable position, but they're still able to excel on the corrections now. The slow changeup has worked out brilliantly here, although Bibu still leaves himself untainted. More of the case, though, as he is shot out a little bit in attempting to play things out from the inside of the bar. That will leave a room open for the plant. T3B was downed by a wild shot from Bibu, so at least that exchange has been met, and now the second kill has been found. Hungry is all that remains for Bibu to knock out here, and this retake is more than doable. As of that, the Tracers come through, tries to follow it through, but the backup happens, and Hungry is allowed to reposition himself to shut down the fight and still give this round over to our attackers, as they do indeed reignite the 3-3 scoreline going into the second half here. Beautifully played by Wild to recover like that.
Yeah, strong round there from Wild, and very well done from Hungry. Keeping to the fundamentals, trying to play that down on timing as much as possible. So strong showing from both of these teams right now. Wolves, again, with a very quick 3-round heater, but past that, it's really been the Wild that have been in the driver's seat. Both of these teams quite dominant in these rounds that we've been seeing them take as well. It really hasn't been too hotly contested, minus the clutch up that we saw there from Wolves a little while ago. But past that, both of these teams quite dominant in their own regard. So we'll see if that changes up as the times are changing here, John. 3-3 at the half, and Wild will now be on the defensive end.
You can see the scoreboard here a lot more even as well now that we have come to the full halfway point compared to the bit of domination we had going on there for Wild, and then eventually Wolves as well, as they started to take a bit more command. The teams then on relatively even terms. Those once again, I think a good way to describe the overall outcome of that half very much became a game of patience from both teams, and just who was able to take command of the situation better when they finally diverted from that patient style of play and tried to take outright control of a situation. That's what made the difference, it seemed, more times than not, and we ended up on an even keel, so really neither team ultimately ending up as the winner from that scenario, as we do indeed get that directly even scoreline of 3-3 for the halftime switch. Time to see now if these teams are going to be stronger or, of course, weaker on that potential second half side. Some nice analysis being done here by P4, spotting out quite a bit of the rotation and positioning work as well. Does get full view of that cap can, so it should be a nice reminder from P4. Someone else in the Wolves that, guys, double check those doors, as you do not want to be the member of your team that walks into a double stack with like 20 seconds left to go and kills your chances of a clutch.
It's very true. You can see the trap-centric lineup coming out from Wild here as well. Capcan, Frost, and Legion all coming to play, and even some more limiting factors being applied to the offense with Mira coming in too.
Speaking of that player.
Yes, indeed. Jegs will actually be up here trying to hold things down on the Mira window for the library. Wolves have dealt some damage to him, and they're starting to coil around this top floor. A breaching charge out. Won't discover too much there, though. I don't exactly know if he was trying to get rid of the shield. I think he was trying to get rid of that right over in the corner. And yes, he did. The timing play, and it worked out for the Wild player.
Deadshot looks away or steps back for just a split second there, and unfortunately, that's the split second we saw the banister hop from that member of Wild. Nicely rotated by Jegs. Knew he was in a hot situation with that main pressure already on top of him to knock him below 50, and knew his time was pretty much limited, so finally got out of there. Wasted over half the round the way, too, so I'd say a well-wasted amount of said time. Packbull kind of patiently waiting for his own opportunity to strike. Where it'll come from, though, he's not entirely sure. A bit of a panic throw of the Nitro. He's trying to play it on timing more than anything else. There's the timing, perfectly placed off of the team comms, and that's going to knock out P4 up on top.
Well, Wolves recoiling now. They don't really know how to act in this last minute. No easy kills coming their way. They'll be able to get rid of some of these cap cans, though. That should make their execute inevitably easier, but as of right now, they're dead in the water. Wild doing a great job of trying to not show too much face, but as soon as I say that, Jegs, as well as Packbull all down. The gunfight's now flying through. Wild, the death blows, it's coming through too quickly for them. It tolls, John, the bell, it tolls. Wild all left up to aces. They had such a strong positioning, but the prediction from Wolves, it's proven to be too powerful for Wild to try and deal with. and now the case is down on the ground. Aces has to try and deal with it. Yes, he might be able to pick up 1 kill, but still so much left for him to do.
Aces certainly with some good intel to read into the situation with. You can see that pre-fire going on to the second out of 3 members he needs to take down. And okay, the down, he's not going to realize it, unfortunately. It's probably coming in a little bit too late for him here, but he does actually down Mowgli right there. Like I said before, though, more than likely not actually going to come to the realization of that until it is too late. As you can see him hopping down to make the play now. Deadshot still needs to be eliminated. He's only got about 3 seconds to hop on the counter defuse. So there's the confirmation on the Mowgli. At least gets the credit for that, but the round, unfortunately, even if he got that last kill, is already over. Beautifully held there by the Wolves as they take command instead here, and we'll get the lead after the first round victory along with that. With the way that round plays out, though, in close fashion, don't necessarily expect for the members of the Wolves to stay in that position, but we will have to wait and see, of course. If Wild is going to continue to potentially trip up, we could very well be in for a bit of a Wolves gauntlet run straight up to 7.
Yeah, Wild are definitely going to want that round back wholeheartedly. It's such a big advantage in their favor, and Wolves simply just walk into the site and start taking gunfights, and it works out time and time again with these nice little predictions on their sprays. So very well done from them, as they'll be able to pick up a round that they really didn't have any business initially getting. So
takes us in round number 8 here. Once again, Wolves have command of the situation while trying to play their own defensive first round. Of course, very similarly to how we're seeing the later parts of the Wolves' own defense play out. Just kind of wade into that default setup above the bar site, of course. Try to bait your opponents in, throwing out those random bits of aggression when you feel it's appropriate, and for the most part, they were ultimately just not able to get control of the clutch scenario going into the bleeding end of the round right there, so Wolves still take it for themselves. Either way, a very closely fought affair, much like the previous series during the EU LCQ was between both of these teams. We are keeping up pace with that as far as it is concerned, but at the moment, of course, Wolves still having control of the current momentum. It's going to get a little worrying for the Wild fans at home, given the way that that went the last time these two teams played.
all right, come on, Bravo, give us something here. We're gonna get some cameras stolen, but it seems like that's really all they want to attempt to go for at the current time. Continue to try and propel themselves in towards the bomb site. Find themselves what
That's a nice
seemingly
theft.
was, yeah, a nice little setup there on the Evil Eye. Still have so much room to breathe as well, John. Nobody
default
able
here.
to really do too much. P4 is getting away with a lot right now. That's all 3 pieces of that utility used up, and a lot gained from it as well, especially when it comes down to that Evil Eye. As you said, not only do you have that camera on site, but they also have to try and give over an explosive to try and deal with their own piece of utility.
So that's both the main horizontal flanks, one of the vertical flanks, and of course with the Evil Eye, vision into the site as well, at least partially. So that's a massive amount, assuming it doesn't get counter shot, obviously, by Wild here. That's a massive amount of intel for the Wolves to work off of, especially if they can keep those 2 defaults, which are arguably the more important ones versus the Evil Eye, in my opinion there. If they can keep those up in the midst of them executing, then they should be able to get every piece of intel except for maybe like hatch drops on the kitchen hatch that they would potentially need to play out a post plan here. So it's all about Wolves follow through at this point. Try to capitalize on that intel. Speaking of which, nice done here by Bibu through the drone hole. Had to wait for the lineup from T3B, but he's going to get it. And that may prompt the quick follow-up execute too, assuming they still have those default intel built up. But no, Wild puts a complete stoppage of play back in favor of themselves. Bibu's going to try to kind of subvert things here, but it's Deadshot actually that picks up 2 of the remaining kills that we still get from the Wolves roster. Ultimately, though, still Wild shutting everything down, despite the intel that Wolves may have had, does not assist them as they try to work their way into the site.
As a cage match right now in between these two. As soon as there's some blood in the water, they are throwing Hail Marys left, right, and center. Wolves not able to pull the wool over Wild's eyes there as they quickly dispatch every single body that decides to throw themselves in towards trophy there. So very well done from Wild as they keep that one pretty tight-knit when it comes to their team play. Keep the guns hot. So 4-4 now here as Wolves try and fix some things up from that previous round. Really just wanted to try and throw it at the Wild site and see if they could try and bowl them over after that initial kill from the drone hole. A little cheeky classic there, but nothing really coming from it past that.
Keep it close at least, as both these teams once again still keep themselves at even odds with each other with that 4-4 scoreline coming into play. Wild now shifting downstairs. We'll see if they kind of take the same cards that Wolves were doing, especially on the later second attempt that they made on the basement hold there, where they peeled away from this aggression that we're now seeing from WYLDE. This is more similar to the first attempt we got out of Wolves. They did have quite a bit of an extension up onto the second floor. They didn't really get trifled with too much, but Wolves were able to collapse that back down onto some pretty serious aggression against WYLDE, who were using, of course, the track stingers to try and subvert some of those rotations that had, again, like I said, mixed results due to the kind of very slow method that Wolves used to peel those players back into the site when everything was said and done.
Wolves will be starting things off like we've seen quite a few rosters do over on the library side. Mowgli will try and assist from down low as well. Some counter angles here to try and build up this offensive matrix for themselves. Have some air jabs come out to play here too. So just making sure none of these flank plays can boil over and trying to harm them later on. Wolves will be able to clear out a large portion of this map, quickly sweeping through the fireplace area too. So WYLDE will be on the hind legs here, at least when it comes to this area of the map. They do have T3B trying to hold things down in blue, and Packball has some nice angles in from Wine over towards the main breach once they go for that, as well as the actual main stairwell. As for Wolves, though, not too much really to call on at the time being. A big moment here for T3B, though, as the main wall is going to be opened. And what is his move going to be? It's actually going to be Aces to go down to P4. Bibu's going to try and spring forward. Jags will fire back as well, as this is starting to be quite the interesting affair.
Bibu, an incredibly important player right now, not only because of his capability to potentially knock out this player on the other side of the blue shelf, but also the one rotate he just took down here. Doesn't catch the intel onto Packball, though, the sitting behind that shelf, so that's an adjustment that needs to be made by Mowgli. Instead, who thankfully gets that kill and one more on top of it, doing huge work here for Wolves to make sure they stay in control of this basement assault, and indeed they do, mainly off of the profits from Mowgli. They're once again taking full command, just like we were seeing him do back during the major for Wolves as well.
Well, Wolves now up on 5, looking for that penultimate point up next, but WYLDE might have something to say about that. Rook looks pretty menacing, and I don't even know what to say about Doc. He's got a whole different case going on over there, doesn't he? Well, it's going to be up to the master defense here for WYLDE, and wow, what an interesting thing we have going on here. Some aggressive looks out of Jags and Packball, the ACOG bros of old, but now with some different magnifications on those two respective guns. I think it's a 1.5 on Doc and a 2x on the MP5 of Rook, if you so choose. But really, we're just looking to the aggressive front that they're going to take in the gunfights. That's what this is just saying in red, white, and blue across the board here, is they are going to be going for the big swinging, high-flying plays.
Yeah, to me this says we may potentially give up that usual extension into potentially library or a few other areas easily, but we are going to defend those immediate extremities of the site to the absolute death by bringing both the Rook as well as the Doc into play. Doc obviously is going to do what Doc does and probably try to spawn peek here and whatnot, play things out pretty aggressively for the opening bits of the round, but also we're likely going to try to keep at least one or two of those stim pistol shots in the pocket, ready to support a teammate if the same thing happens to another one that wants to get a little bit more adventurous or potentially gets challenged quite heavily in what's going to be a bunch of little pseudo mini bunkers on each of those side rooms for the site here.
Yeah, you know, it's like we may lose the round, but we may also just completely destroy them.
Yeah,
so
this is going to be a war that Wolves have to take in order to win this site, essentially.
Indeed, indeed. WYLDE are also going to have a little bit of a roam game going on here. Oh, it's nice of evasive maneuvers coming out there from the drone game. Let's at least get that Rotero drone to go off. Some explosives on into the site, creating a little bit of verticality for them to try and abuse if they so choose. Deadshot will continue to look for more with these drones as he quickly propels himself into Solarium. He'll get rid of some barbed wire over on this end as Wolves are quickly building up their case for this round.
Got a nice intel theft coming in here from P4. Whoever is potentially taking control of the Brava for the Wolves at this current juncture of the round. The default, or not the default, excuse me, that'll be the bulletproof on the inside of the site that'll be taken away. So all of that office intel, such as the player hiding in the corner right now, he'll be given freely over to the Wolves attackers. Not necessarily going to make up the difference, though, as they lose a very powerful piece of their entry game. Mowgli goes down first this time to Wild. Wild is certainly going to be very happy about that. A sigh of relief given over to some of the interior site players. They are not going to have to contend against Mowgli, who took out 3, if memory serves me correctly, just in the previous round. That's currently leading the kills overall in the server at 12-7 right now.
Swapping mags.
Well, here we go. Dead shots and the rest of the gang.
Reloaded.
1 minute remaining here. Wild have been able to stave them off, at least for now, shutting down Mowgli as well, the top frag for the Wolves. Breach is open, though, and Wolves with an opportunity to try and pick up this round, especially with the logic bombs that Bibu still has at his disposal. He's going to pop that off, which more than likely means an aggressive showcase here to rear its ugly head in the moments to come. Hungry will go down, and Shinka not really too mobile so far here on the balcony. Going to have a nice pickup, though, here from the Wild members, is to be able to at least garner 1. A nice grab from Jegs as well, and that will be the case. Triple kill for him on the round. It's all left up to Bibu on the window here for Master. This round more than likely going the way of Wild as the timer ticks down. So looking more and more like we could get overtime for our very first map of the day in between these two.
More than anything, just a bit of a domino effect failure of the strategy coming in from Wolves. The initial loss of Mowgli takes away the only set of grenades that the team had, which then makes all of the in-sight utility destruction that was being done by the repair drones a little bit of a moot point, because ultimately that was just to kind of set up the nades to take out a player or two and make the entry game that much easier, which obviously never happened because the nades were the first thing to get knocked out there, and as a result, they were just grasping at straws to try and find a kill or two to try and make the actual entry game a little bit easier. Ultimately never really happening because of what we said with Wild, really just playing like a full-on bunker strategy where they didn't really have to move, and it just compounded on itself, not really giving Wolves much of a chance to make that round work by the time it was done, unfortunately, due to the initial timing loss of Mowgli.
Well, all right. 5-5 in between these two now, and a kitchen defense on the board here for Wild. Have the routine lineup of suspects that we'd see when it comes to their operator lineup. Frost working her way back in as well. We'll see if that's beneficial to them, especially with the way that Wolves went about things the last time that we saw them attack this site. Pretty aggressive showcasing over on the trophy side of things that ended up leading to their demise. Could obviously be the exact same case here coming up pretty soon. So Mowgli is actually going to transition his way up onto Ego as they'll begin breaking down a lot of these windows around the top floor and start working their way in towards the office space.
Was a little bit less utility vulnerable this round as well, with them now bringing the sledge in. Obviously, a bit of a requirement to attack this site specifically, but just having that second set in the event things don't go that great for Mowgli, which, to be fair, has been a bit of an uncommon scenario for him. They at least have the backup in the form of Bibu here, so it can try to make up the difference, especially considering we're still focusing on clearing out the same partition of the map. There'll just be a little bit less do-or-die attitude coming in from Wild, obviously, as it is just the vertical extension this time, which is the whole actual site, just like on round number 10 here. So we'll still moving about things relatively slowly, as you might expect them to. While it does have a little bit more of a free-flowing lineup this time, but they still need to be moving a bit between floors at least, so that's why you're going to see the current lineup of operators they do have. Don't be filled, though. It is still very much a focus on defending those interior parts of the site and those natural vertical extensions that I was describing a few seconds prior.
I'm about halfway through now. Have to start getting this motor running for Wolves. Have some of the info working its way in on the top floor. Shinko with the cross down low, just making sure that no one can try and rotate through onto these players that'll swing in for Solarium. Deadshot's got a more aggressive angle up onto the bathroom. You can see Bibu trying to help this as well. And this is what Wolves' buildup is. They're trying to clear out this portion of the map, and it works out at least initially. They're going to lose Deadshot, though, and they still have to try and worry about this flank that could potentially come through. They're going to have to keep that flank up for now until Oh, they can try and clear out the remainder of this top floor. Then they can start trying to transition this in towards this bomb site. But a lot of this verticality will assist them quite a bit. Oh, some big shots coming out here from T3B. Although he does not know it, someone is right next door to the area in which he was just working on. But he's actually going to work his way over towards the actual stairwell of trophy. A nice cross here from Packbowl that he can continue to offer up. Going to be quite difficult for Wolves to try and bust this one up.
Again, Wolves are going to run into an issue of timing, but thankfully that patience pays off, at least for the start of the engagement. 2 for 1 so far, as P4 also adds a second kill in for Wolves against the one found by WYLDE. Timing now becoming a serious concern, especially with vertical pressure still being against this execute. Hungry has also held the line on the back end of Dining Room. P4 just guessing about where his opponent's going to spring up from, and with that Frost Mat claiming the only other member of this assaulting team, WYLDE hold on. They persevere yet again to find another successful defensive round, taking us to round 12. I believe with them having the only match point here.
Yes, indeed. WYLDE with an opportunity to shut this down in regulation, although it will have been hotly contested from Wolves, but I'll have to see what they have to say about it. It's going to be a bar gaming defense, and, well, WYLDE going to be showcasing very similar cards to what we'd seen from Wolves. A lot of the same operators coming through. We've got the Frost here. We've got the Mira. Some more traps, though, as well as Hungry bringing, you know, Malusi to the table as well here with her Banshee play. So we'll see how that works out for them.
WYLDE have been doing a fantastic job once again of playing pretty much a perfect defensive half here, right in the middle of that kind of aggressive or very defensive weighted marker here, not playing it too heavily onto one side or the other, so always making Wolves second guess their own advances. Double, triple, quad checking things on drones to make sure it's going to be a clean entry attempt when they go for it, and just when they think that they're safe, someone from WYLDE jumps out into the woodwork, subverts those expectations, and resets the whole process for Wolves. That's causing so much delay, and at least for the past 2 rounds now, has caused hesitation on the Wolves' attack, so much so to the point that they are brought down to that very, very rough, like 20-second execute marker, but they just really have to force the issue, regardless of whether they're actually ready or not, which, as you might expect, has led into some messier executes in that null time, and has given its past 2 rounds over to WYLDE. Oh no.
Oh my
Mowgli, what are you
goodness,
doing?
Mowgli, that's the most common one. That is the most common Frost
Mowgli
Mat.
thinks he's like beat the Frost to the punch, that he's like here before the Frost even has that one down. No sir, it's a miracle you even got back up. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a little bit surprised someone from WYLDE on the inside of bar there didn't hear that, but either way, Mowgli will be given a second chance at life, just obviously with significantly less HP.
And that is a huge, huge negative here for Wolves as well. This is their top frag we're talking about. They really need Mowgli to get into the nitty-gritty of things, and they really want him to survive a lot of these affairs. So
P4 kind of can take up some of that aggressive mantle when it comes to the entry game, but the problem is P4 is usually prepping that phone call about 5 or 10 steps away from where you'd want the entry player to be. So it doesn't really work on the current operator he's playing with. If they switched up those roles and let someone else take over the Dokkaebi duties, and this could work okay, but the problem is Mowgli's now at low HP, and yeah, P4 is going to be a little detached from some of the direct entry capability that he could potentially capture with the assistance of that phone call right now.
the key thing is now is that Wolves don't really know which direction to, you know, kind of fly right now. They're looking upstairs, they're looking to the side, they're looking down low, but there's really no direction. They're aimless. Frag grenades out, aces will go down, BB with a big kill, and this could give them some semblance of something. A nice little swing here from Mowgli, but he's got to pick and choose his battles. Oh, WYLDE. I think that they are trying a little bit too hard, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, but as soon as I say that, 2 big kills, make it 3, make it 4. My God, WYLDE, shut them down as it's up to Deadshot now. The only one that was not aggressive in the way that he tried to play into this round, and therefore the only one alive now for Wolves. Gonna swing in here from Mud. He's got a frost mat. I really hope he doesn't walk into that. That'd be a terrible way to end this round and end this map, but as he's going to get aggressive down the line. Oh my goodness, there's no way that he gets away with that. That audio play there, John, so very smart at a dead shot. He knew somebody was going to be playing on that other end, but Does he know about the player around the mirror? He pre-fires on such low HP. Pack-Bull, is he going to swing into him? He does, and he gets him. It would have been curtains either way, as there was a cap can trap on that door, but it's the bullets that get it done first. And the very first game goes the way of WYLDE.
Honestly, a bit of a cerebral play there from the last player alive for Wolves in those final seconds there. The fact that player, like, stops before that bullet spray comes in as well, that was, like, just, like, dodging the trap in the, like, Indiana Jones dungeon thing kind of right there. Nicely done. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get him the outright clutch, but still, either way, some very nice play to tee it all off. Either way, though, it is the surprise victory, for some at least, that will be going towards WYLDE as they take control of this first map instead. Don't even need overtime for it as well. They bring it back under their control and close it out 7-5, and that is going to take us, of course, to the end of map number 1. We still have maps number 2 and potentially 3 coming up in just a few minutes, though, ladies and gentlemen, so do stick with us. We're going to give the players a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you ready for the second map of the series.
Gamers, UNICEF and I need you by our side for a real-life mission. A mission to protect the rights of every child. After news cameras have left, UNICEF is here. Every day, everywhere, but particularly where it's needed most. Did you know that more than 170 million children need UNICEF's humanitarian aid this year? At Gamers Without Borders, many of you have already chosen UNICEF, and I thank you for that. Choosing UNICEF is the easiest and smartest decision you can make, because you're investing in a child, and investing in a child guarantees lifelong returns, not only for that child, but also for their community and for our world.
The divisions in the world are stark. Recent years have shown some of the largest natural disasters ever in history. And that really hits hardest the people who had the least to begin with. These people need help. It would be a real tragedy if all these advances in science and health and technology only benefit people in a position to pay for them. There should be no lesser standard if you happen to be poor. These problems can be overcome. Direct Relief is a humanitarian, nonprofit health organization. The focus has been on the least fortunate, most vulnerable people. On a good day, things are tough for a lot of people in this world and in this country. And what we can do is mobilize private resources for their benefit and make it available free of charge. We're the first nonprofit in the history of the United States to obtain accreditation just like a commercial distributor. And it's been expanded geographically to every country in the world and every state and territory of the United States. What's now Direct Relief officially was started in 1948 as a private effort of a war immigrant businessman named William Zimden. The basic guiding principles of a war immigrant businessman really influence what Direct Relief has done ever since, and they begin with just serving the people who need help. We have this great privilege of engaging with people who come in from very different backgrounds, but with the same purpose of trying to just do something good. It doesn't matter if you're typing or talking on the phone or working on the warehouse floor. They're all part of an effort that means something bigger, and that is the fuel that kind of keeps you going. It gives you some sense that there is a way to make meaningful progress, even for a little organization that started at a kitchen table, but that's what provides motivation in life. The notion that many people, just by virtue of where they're born, the color of their skin, the country they live in. They're going to get sicker. They're going to stay sicker longer, and they're going to die sooner. That's pretty good motivation. These issues are too big for any one organization to address. We really work hard to honor these guiding principles, invite people to participate, and we are sure thankful for the thousands of people across the country and world who have become part of Direct Relief by virtue of their participation.
Progress is a race that has no end. After every finish line, another challenge awaits. How can we continue to push innovation in a sport at the forefront of technology? This is how. Discover how Aramco and the Aston Martin Formula One team aim to meet Formula One's sustainable fuel targets. Aramco, powered by How.
And we are back at you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once more. Stokes is going to fix his focus real quick there. There you go. Little makeup trick, you know, little product show-off trick. In case you need to refocus your camera, just take the hand, camera sees the hand, and then guide it back. See, look, I just did the same thing. It's crazy. It's like magic. Cameras.
The Force.
How do they work? Anyway, we're going to get ourselves ready for map number 2 here of our European matchup on the Bravo stream here today. We just saw WYLDE, spoiler alert, take control, a little bit late for the alert, but there it is anyway, take control of map number 1 of this series against Wolves. WYLDE, of course, looking to get a bit of revenge, as we did see Wolves take the qualification away from WYLDE for the most recent major, of course, inside of the primary R6 circuit at the tail end of the European LCQs for that event. Now WYLDE has their opportunity to potentially earn their spot back at Gamers 8 for what would be the second year in a row. We saw some footage earlier, of course, of their run during the 2022 event. And now they are just a few maps away from potentially earning that slot. Heading into our next one, speaking of which, looks like we are ready to jump into it, ladies and gentlemen. This will be the returning map from the last time these two teams played it. It did end up going over, of course, to the players from the Wolves the last time this was played, but it needed to go the full distance in overtime for that result to come out. WYLDE, once again, with the opportunity for revenge. Let's see if they can capture it.
Well, big shocker, Ying is immediately going to get removed, and a big ban there from the Wolves, and definitely a strong ban up against WYLDE as well, as Ying used to be one of the staple operators of Hungary, especially. So Thatcher going to get removed as well, so right as rain when it comes to these operator bans so far on Villa.
Once again, being the last attacker ban, takes us right up to our defender bans. We're not expecting anything to diverge as well. This is another very roam-centric map, so because of that, the 3 most commonly banned defenders right now do tend to be roamers. So that means more than likely 2 out of 3 of those are going to get banned out here. As we already saw, if memory serves me correctly, back on map number 1, one of those has already been taken out, but oh, a surprise! Cade is actually going to be knocked out here as the final defender. So 2 of those 3 kind of triangle points of the most commonly banned defenders are going to be left back in. That's Solus still being allowed in play. And potentially more importantly for this specific map here, Valkyrie is also still going to be allowed most potently by the Wolves, who we see that get pretty much immediately locked by P4 here, who latches onto that opportunity as soon as he gets the chance.
Looks like they'll jump on in here, and we'll see if there's any real adjustments here from WYLDE off rip. I don't want to talk about them too much, John. I'm going to adhere to, you know, the days of old, and, you know, just not trust any professional player until they're forced to lock in their operator. So just act like it's not there, you know? AVG is going to be the site that we're going to be at least adhering to when it comes to this. As for the Wolves side of things, they are going to be bringing a little bit of denial for the info game, a little info game of their own, a little play around the smokes, just a lot of things going on that they can try and counterplay with here. And I really like what they have going on, especially with you know, the Jaeger working in as well to try and prevent some of these more impactful utilities like the frag grenades working their way in from Aces and Jags. And when you know it, John, good thing we didn't talk about those two operators because they're off in the ether now. T3B will pick up Flores, and Yana will be donned by Aces.
All right, so Wild, once again, on the board for the first attack of the game here. Time to see if they can keep that momentum rolling from map number 1 and try to take command of a decent scoreline on this attacking side of our second map of the series as well. Jegs wasting no time heading into the basement, by the way. Already taking some very swift control of the entirety of that floor. Wolves do not have the immediate counter room, so this could be dangerous for them if they don't have another way to latch onto the intel. The Jegs has already taken this forward control. Thankfully, Wolves' roam game, at least until right now, has not been rotating into this part of the map. You guys can see it there from that top-down view we just went to. Bibu is right around the corner. If Jegs takes a few steps forward or Bibu a few steps back, that could be an early kill for Jegs if Bibu does not otherwise check this backstairs position.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Well, Wild trying to make sure that the next few steps
Bibu
here
wins
are
it.
stable ones, and they definitely aren't, are they? Jags will fall down flat on his face, and Wild really no way to recoup with that either. He came to the darkness, John, and he surely found it. No real way for them to try and bring this one back to light now, and they're going to have to try and search for other means to try and get themselves back into this round. The Flores drones now work their way in. The Rotero will claim at least a cluster of barbed wire initially. Frag grenade out here from Aces, and wow, my God. I think he got that one to sit on top of the shelves down there, Johnny boy. Able to get that frag to work his way into his favor, but still needed that shrapnel luck there up against Bibu.
Oh.
The ADS. Oh, what a creative way to get that done as well. The breach through the floor with the ADS. It'll eat things up in piano. Make it to where Wolves will at least be able to stave off another elimination as they're coming in pretty hot and heavy right now from the offensive side.
That nade was on point as well, so more than likely would have been a third member of the Wolves roster going down had that not have been there. Beautifully placed, of course, by Deadshot to save his teammate's life. Aces, though, still slaying out like most of Wild is doing at the moment here. Mowgli just losing himself in the movement there. Can't even escape the bullets, and Shinka falls down as the final domino here. Wolves, even with the issues, clearing things out initially, still take very confident control of their first round here and are able to keep that momentum rolling right into the second map with the opening round going into their pocket.
Dining room, kitchen will be the site for the Wolves. Not feeling AVG after what we had just witnessed. And I mean, really, why would you? Wild are on it right now. They are playing so very well together on all fronts. And I think the big thing to highlight here is that, especially for Aces, I mean, he has been able to do this for such a very long time. And it seems as though this team able to back him up in an extremely efficient way. So we'll see if they can continue working with this throughout these rounds. But I mean, from Chalet to now, you've definitely been able to witness what this roster can put together. And if they get off on the right foot, I mean, they can just catch fire and just remove the remaining members of any squad from a server, it seems.
5 seconds left.
For Wild to continue the momentum they've already built up in terms of the first map victory for this first round as well, but they take very swift command. And you were mentioning it very much on Aces there to take most of the prowess from that one, but we also still saw some great contributions from T3B. He's very much been sometimes that go-to player when it comes to the initial entry power out of Wild to make their mark in the early, mid, or even late round sometimes too. He's been great with his contributions there. Aside from that, though, things are going to be relatively quiet, of course, at the beginning of round 2. Good drone placement there, does catch the cross for at least one member of the Wolves. Admittedly, we have shifted over towards the trophy side, so that's not really going to be actionable intel. Just calls out, of course, the early rotation away from the extension in AVG. It should give a little bit more clearance for some of these members of Wild to commit themselves to that side if they're going to want to be using it a bit more.
Well, this round will be building up to be quite something. Mesa swings in with the Gara hook. But to find what he'll actually discover on this top floor. Nobody in earshot of it. Transitioning in, no real traps around, an easy shot for him. It's one, it's two. Is anybody awake? Hello? Somebody's got to save somebody. Some nice shots. Mowgli will go down. Aces, he's dismantled the entire team, John. Oh my. It's up to Deadshot, up against 4. Such very low HP now as well, as Jags will shut him down. What a round here from Wild. The disrespect to Wolves and their setup. Not a single person even aware that he's flooded in towards 90 at all, John. And they're at home. This is home audio. This is not a LAN. Oh my goodness. Wolves.
Just from Aces specifically, what he was able to pull off there was absolutely insane. And in all honesty, probably still would have gone just as well, even if he wasn't there. Oftentimes just kind of capturing a fallback we were seeing from quite a few of the other members of the Wolves, and just no one catching the advancement from Aces there whatsoever. 5-1 already for him after just 2 rounds having been played out. 2, of course, picked up on the most recent round, and the initial 3K he got to enter his team into that first site over at ABG. Speaking of the devil, by the way, we are going to make a return towards that, as Wolves will try to course correct quite quickly here to what is very quickly turning into a Wild-centric game as of the first 2 rounds.
Wolves still trying to brave the storm, though.
10 seconds left before
I think that they can take it to Wild. They're going to extend towards the north.
5 seconds
Slam up some of these reinforcements on the triple wall. Do they try and keep things soft on that far side, though?
defuse a bomb.
Try and keep that angle over towards the master closet. Wild going to try and show a different face here after these 2 successful rounds, seeing if they can round things off with a great third here. They've added the Nook into play, but T3B has done a decent amount of shooting already this round, so anybody with some good ears will know that's the FMG9. Will likely recognize that that Nook will be in play. Wolves has changed it up a little bit for them as well on this AVG setup. They brought P4 in on the Clash Shield now. This is something that has started to work its way back in more for professional play. We kind of saw everybody more gents rule her away, I'd say, right, John? Just nobody really fancying her all that much for quite some time, but now it just seems like Rainbow Six is a lawless land when it comes to the way that some of these operators work, and wouldn't you know it, Clash has worked her way back into a lot of play in the recent history. So Bibu's actually going to go down here. Potentially Deadshot.
Deadshot doesn't want this is the problem.
Oh, he
and he's smart
doesn't.
to assume that.
Oh, yes, indeed. Some nice angles adopted, but oh no, it's going to be Mowgli that actually picks up one Deadshot and has to work his way back in towards Library, but oh, it could be nigh time for him. It'll be Mowgli instead to take out one. Deadshot to swing back out for Aces' position, but a nice little angle being adopted through the door will take out yet another player. 7-1 right now for Aces as we enter the 3 versus 3.
Good bait, not immediately knocking out Deadshot. Not sure if that was intentional or not from Wild, but it did great work to kind of draw in. Deadshot, and ultimately Mowgli as well. Mowgli allowed to obviously get away with his own shenanigans, but Deadshot immediately trapped, as we saw there. Yeah, even before he had realized, like, yep, I probably shouldn't go for this res. He was already baited into the library, and that was where he was pretty much locked into his own demise. The good news is, like we said before, now we're seeing Wild make up for these differences, trading out onto him. Mowgli finally just being dealt with. He was the one thing holding this Wolves defense together, and now that he's gone, it does not look like P4, especially being on the Clash, you're going to be able to really do much to subvert the outcome of the round. Aces with the drive-by on the pistol to end it, as we'll see one more time here on the replay. Nicely done as well, transitioning right off of that kill that he'd gotten a few seconds prior. Locks in another one for Wild as they still lead here 3-0 against the Wolves, rocketing onwards towards that potential 2-0 unless Wolves do something to stop this soon. Surprised we're actually not getting the early pause, but expect it in the next round or two if things continue to go without interruption to Wild's success so far here.
It seems like the gloves are completely off for Wild now as well. You know, they were getting pretty creative there for a bit with the way that they were trying to sauce things up towards Wolves. But now look at this lineup, John. This is just pure bare knuckle. All right, it's time to throw some haymakers and see if we can knock out. Exactly. This is a street brawl now from Wild. They are ready for war when it comes down to it. You got the full lineup of our routine soft breachers. You've got grenades galore, even with that chain range. They're actually getting even more aggressive.
Okay,
from
slow
what
down a
we
little bit
saw.
with
They're going to
Hungary.
add the Togepi in as well. Wild is getting wild. That's what's happening right now. Wet and wild. It is crazy.
Have to prove their namesake, of course. We'll see if they can do that when everything is said and done here. This is, of course, going to be to see how this plays out for Wolves with so much of an extension down below for what is still ultimately going to be that second floor hold, just trying to subvert the attention away from the direct site take, hopefully allow for Wolves to kind of piece apart this setup that the members of WYLDE are, of course, trying to go for. WYLDE, like Stokes had mentioned, though, as of like 2 rounds ago at this point, just zero respect for Wolves' plans. Ace is carving his way through this first floor setup without any hesitation, of course, until he reaches that tarps area, and I really shouldn't have had any hesitation, too. Would have been great sport here, potentially counter out Bibu. Either way, Jags just goes right forward, goes 1 for 1, and Aces with the mid-range shotgun usage here. 2 pumps gets the job done against Bibu, knocks him out, and I believe that's the entirety of the first floor extension already dealt with now. And we're still less than a minute into the actual round.
I can't think, John. I can't process.
Speed is palpable from WYLDE.
When you're faster than light, you're always in darkness, John.
They're fast. The question is, are they furious to take down the 3 members of Wolves? Sorry, it was low-hanging fruit. Had to take it from Wolves now on the inside of the site. We'll see if that'll be the case, as Ace has already kind of blown out his secret hand in the form of the potential Gar hook usage. Still a little bit of it that could come out, but it more than likely will almost certainly lead to his death if he tries to go really crazy with this one, but we'll have to wait and see. Could at least go for a quick repositioning. Another kill is going to be found regardless of the plans of the Gar hook, though, as T3B seeks a winner against one of the remaining members of Wolves upstairs.
Aces and WYLDE are dismantling Wolves, and you're going to hit me with Fast and Furious puns? That's what you're going to do to me?
Yeah, we got to keep it interesting. You know?
Oh, well, they definitely are. Let me tell you that. Shinka's going to be able to pick up 1, make it a 3 versus 2, make it a 2 versus 2. Mowgli be able to get one of his own. Hungary's hungry, but he can't get it done either. T3B left up to him. Do they know where he can come from, though? A lot of opportunity here for him. He has to get something done with his Hell Presence sensor. Has the rotation. Oh, the big plays. Oh, my goodness. He's going to rotate off a pre-fire. He tags Shinka. He knows where he is. He knows where Mowgli is as well, but he's got to make the move. Some damage onto Mowgli, but he can't get it done. Mowgli guns him down. He doesn't have the clutch gene. Quaking in his boots. And finally, the Wolves will get something for all of this effort on Villa.
All that loose play comes back to bite WYLDE finally. Ultimately, their mistake to not kind of bring themselves together in a little bit more of a cohesive fashion to close in on that. What I believe at least was a 4v2 at one point there that Wolves managed to turn around into their own favor. Had we seen a little bit more of a push together from the remaining members of WYLDE, probably would have gone off into their favor, but I think they were just feeling themselves a little bit too much inside of that scenario through a bit too many individual 1v1s at the members of Wolves, and as such, lined them up for still a very nice comeback, but ultimately a comeback that was probably more under the control of WYLDE with a bit more pacing in the play there, in my opinion.
Device primed. Keep an eye on door.
All right, slam a few walls, destroy a few drones, and we'll be back into the action here for the Wolves. Have the Valkyrie in, as well as some traps to try and slow up some more of the aggressive tendencies from WYLDE. I've really been liking what we've been seeing out of a lot of these teams recently, bringing some more Kapkan. Not a lot of people enjoying it as much, John, but the thing about Kapkan, right, the reason that this character exists is that he is a limiting factor for teams that are overly aggressive and do not check doors. That's the key thing. There's a lot of utility in this game that destroy Kapkan traps, and they get destroyed with a singular bullet. There's really nothing extra to their utility. It's just the fact that Kapkan traps are always there at the worst possible time.
He's basically like the siege version of like a skill check dice roll if you try to execute with a limited amount of time left. It's like, okay, you've chosen to run into the site without properly droning it. Now there's a 50-50 chance one of you is going to instantly die on entry.
Exactly.
And there's nothing you can do about it because you've used too much of your time not clearing it out. Nice setup here on the glass, by the way, to get things started for WYLDE. T3B once again making up for the fact that he was not able to clutch things out there, but he's at least going to be able to still be as stalwart as ever when it comes to the entry power, knocking out a very powerful member of Wolves in the process. Mowgli, who's often been a thorn in the side of WYLDE's earlier advances, goes down without any effort to put forward this time, unfortunately, as he is hard countered by that glass setup.
Yeah, this man was so happy that there were some smokes going off. He's like, oh, my opportunity has
little bit too
arisen.
eager.
Yeah, and then immediately got removed. It's like, oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. A little glass play going on, but see if they can try and right their wrongs here. Coming into the latter half of the round. Aces going for the grenade. Not too much coming from that. No step up there from the Wolves member. And in fact, a few paces back. And why wouldn't you? The floor just exploded in front of your eyes. And not exactly the point that you want to be. A lot of time still on the board for Wild to get this ball rolling, as they are right on the cusp of making some very crucial decisions for this round.
Reboot. The timing play, a little early. Thankfully not spotted as far as I'm aware. It does appear that the Wild members got some intel out, though, so there may be a drone scouting Ebu's position eventually. Anyway, but no! Still is able to get himself out into the open. Ace's second nade, though, does also land, so that kill is immediately countered out from Ebu's perspective, as it is still going to be Wild leading by one player here. The advances made, of course, by the other member of this team. P4 tries to go for the impact trick, does not get the second Selma, so I believe he's not going to find the impact he would have wanted from that nade. Ebu as well, patiently waiting for his opportunity to still frag out from the opposite side of this deployable shield, trying to subvert the expectations a little bit, get the direct angle to play against things, but now he's exposed himself into the open, has to hit the deck here, no other choice if he wants to stay alive and try to extend this play into that 20-second margin, which more than likely he is going to be able to hit. That's where Wolves start to get a little bit more of their power back, and they still able to clutch this, but the peak timing is not where it needs to be. Packbull wins out a very pivotal fight. Deadshot finds a counter, but again, Wild still up by a player, no longer the case, however, as no, it's going to be Wolves holding the line instead as P4 closes it down for his team.
And Wild on an absolute tear, but Wolves finally able to battle back and get some pieces picked up here for themselves, bringing this scoreline just a tad bit closer, making it a little bit more manageable for when this side switch comes in. And speaking of that, this will be our last round for this half. So Wild still with some potential to try and, garner an even more advantageous lead for themselves and prevent this tie. But for the Wolves, trying to make sure that they do exactly that. Bring this to bear, make sure that they have all 3 rounds that they can try and muster for this half of things. And that's where they're going to head down to a site that we don't see all that often, but is quite successful when we do see it played. It's going to be Library and Living Room.
That is the key message to take away here, is regardless of the outcome of this next 6th and final round of the half here from Wolves, Wild are still in a pretty good position no matter which way it swings here. 3 rounds attacking side of Villa is still nothing to scoff at if you're coming from the defensive perspective on that one. So assuming Wild has their pieces together, so to speak, on their own defensive half, they're still on the path to victory as far as I'm concerned. 4-2 just doubles that down even more so. So it'll really just be bonus points for Wild if they're able to really lock in that other round. It's a bit disappointing considering they started 3-0s. They probably would have, in hindsight to that, would have liked a little bit of a better scoreline than what they currently have now, but nothing they could really do about it.
Changing mags.
Well, we'll begin transitioning into the bottom floor here. Widespread, just trying to figure out exactly what the Wolves have done with this map. They'll get good initial intel onto the actual physical site here. Just as a reminder as well, Packbull will have some opportunities to try and fly up from the basement hatch, and that's what they're looking for at the current moment. P4 can actually try and play into this from down low as well. Some nades out. Packbull, let's see it, my friend. Nades 2. Nobody gonna pick up a gun or anything just yet. Finally, he's gonna fly in off of that. P4 gonna fly down, try and get aggressive here, but he didn't see him. They're not seeing each other. What the heck just happened? He still gets away with it. P4. What has just happened in the basement of Villa? I've never seen anything like this in my whole life. Wild still have an opportunity too. D3B is still up, but he's gonna go down to P4. And it's going to be a tie on the half. What was that in the basement?
This is the only time we do not have player cams that I really wish we do, because I would do some very rough things to see the look on P4's face after that right now. Just being like, A, how am I still alive? B, how did I get a 3K there? Because none of that makes any sense from the POV that we saw that breakdown from. He got out camouflage as he ran down the stairs. There's a player with a camouflage I don't think you can normally use in other tournaments that's being used here, and it just completely threw him for a loop as he walked directly by that player. And as a result of that, nearly lost his life. Thankfully, the player on the other side of that one made the same exact mistake. So it just turned into a very awkward encounter where P4 just happened to be the first one to bring his senses back to reality and figure out just what the heck he needed to do to come out of that one alive and with a few kills in his pocket.
What a wild affair there. That was definitely something to behold. I'm happy I woke up at 3:45 in the morning to witness that.
So it is now a dead heat between these two teams after a very chaotic final round of the half. 3-3 becomes the scoreline. Like we said before, still a bit of an advantage, in my opinion, to the Wild roster coming off that attacking side, but considering the rebound that Wolves have now made 3 rounds in a row for themselves, that could very quickly turn against them if that momentum carries over here, of course, onto the attacking side. Let's take a peek at how Wolves' initial round is going to go, though, before we make any more long-casting judgments like that.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Well, with the way that these two are playing, we might not be casting for long. I don't really know. I mean, for Wolves' perspective, man, they're so hit or miss with their rounds right now. You know, they're having these big sweeping victories, but then immediately after, Wild are able to just take it to the house. So it's really hard fought, but I really think it's up to these adjustments that we're going to see coming in on these next couple of rounds. Hungry? Down inside of Master, I do believe, and I think he was off on an island too. The only supporting player over inside of Bench. He's been forced back as well. Jegs took some damage from another means. What the heck has been going on here? It looks like T3B will actually be able to get a nitro from down low. We did have him down inside of the Tetris area. So, looks like they'll at least be able to equalize here, but still some considerable damage dealt to Wild, and especially damning for Wolves here too, with what we see coming off here from Mowgli. He'll end up losing his life. Still playing so very well, especially from what we'd seen in the first game here today.
We've been chasing down a fairly clean entry path up through those main stairs into the site as well, so another member of his team may try to take capitalization upon that. For the sake of the Wolves, we'll see, of course, how all that follows through, as I don't unfortunately think they had anyone in position to play it outright there. They didn't want to take a step into the bar area itself due to the risk that would have been involved with that. We had a few members of Wild still kind of actively keeping their wits about them in that department, plus there wasn't really enough study factor at that point in time. So they had confidence, but now that has changed, and Wild strikes first, but it's an immediate strike back from Deadshot to trade it 1-for-1 as the team works their way into the site. Deadshot continues to hold the line on the back flank, but T3B does the same from the interior of the site. Packpool also delays further action with those toxic babes that'll chuck out there. Does not have enough to bring it down to the null timer situation, though. So Wolves, with patience here, should be able to outlast that utility, take a step back, reconfirm their plans, and try to go for this 2v2 duel outright. The drone moving forward is going to be a big piece of this one as well. These are the only 2 drones that sit remaining. There's another one on a dead player that can be watched by the 3 dead players on Wolves as well. But that one we just saw moving is the only active one that are still movable by the 2 remaining players. Either way, Deadshot sneaks in here, finds the plant angle, but he will be denied. Not enough of an overwatch from Bibu. And as a result, he now sits on that island that Stokes mentioned at the beginning of the round here, just trying to play out the 1v2. It's a clutch play from him, but this might be asking a bit too much, especially trying to work the DMR in this situation can be rough. So time getting low, and unfortunately no case plant as of yet. It's more than likely, and indeed it will be confirmed now, going the way of Wild to start things out in the second half.
I mean, Wild are playing lights out right now. When it comes down to these crucial moments and these crucial rounds that are really the deciding factor of who is going to win out this series, it's Wild every time that we see lighting up the scoreboard and taking the big, big moments. So we'll see if they can continue on this reign of terror as they'll shift on over to dining room and kitchen. But as for Wolves, it has really not been all that fantastic, minus some of the bigger streaks that they've been able to put together. It's really been Wild that has been able to temper Wolves time and time again. So, see if the adjustments will come through here for Wolves. And now they're going to be bringing in the Brava. We've been seeing this a couple of times so far, as well as Habana coming through as well. Really like this IQ pickup from Bibu on top of that.
should be able to find out quite a bit of what the setup is going to be looking like for Wild, especially the things like those EDDs and whatnot, which can be tricky, like we were mentioning before, if you're going to end up in a suboptimal execute position, which is how most of these executes have honestly gone. So that's probably going to be very much warranted here to counter out T3B shenanigans. And then on top of that, getting the early scout onto the jammers positions, any inaccessible walls that may come from that will also be very much needed, of course, with the obvious counter to the Valkyrie cams that are going to be placed around the map by Packbull as well. Slow play once again to start things out here. Wolves won't be going for any crazy 5-man push shenanigans right off the bat. It'd be quite insane, in fact, to see something like that specifically on this site, as you have very limited execute options from the attacker's POV. This is definitely one that has worked in the long term, unless you get a very lucky early position, both not only inside of that pantry spot, but for instance, like in the back of the Astro stairs as well. You can combine those two and then swing off some early pressure in through laundry. Maybe you can make a quick take work, but it's still at very high risk because of the usual extensions that the defenders usually go for upstairs. Speaking of which, Wolves have started the process of clearing that out with the initial elimination of Aces, having a bit of a rougher time making that early round mark compared to what we were seeing on the attacking side. He's fallen off just a little bit here in the first 2 rounds that we've seen played out, but indeed it is only 2 rounds, so plenty of opportunity for Aces to recover that, just not hitting his mark here on 7 or 8.
Although Wild will be down 1 player, they do still have quite a few opportunities to try and nip this in the bud.
Nice pre-fire.
Wolves getting aggressive, and yes, indeed, what a pre-fire that was coming from P4. This will shut down T3B. Hungary also under fire as well, as he's starting to take some heat downstairs. It's a little bit as of right now. Wolves trying to transition this into an execute here as they're going to rotate off the building. Looks like Mowgli's actually worked his way into sight. Excuse me. Looks like we'll have the case here soon enough. And this is exactly the circumstances that we want to try and play out on this offensive side of things. They've set up the crosses, and now the plant's working out. Some big kills here from Mowgli. A nice one from Packbull, though, as he'll keep their hopes alive, especially after Jags goes down over on the other end of things. It'll be all up to him, but Mowgli will be the one to actually end this round. And, well, looks like the offense will finally get something going on for themselves here, as Wolves will be able to claim a round on their kitchen offense.
Nothing fancy when it came to the overall setup from Wild there, just unfortunately trying, I think, to get a bit too loose with their positioning, especially upstairs right from the very start of that round, and Wolves just wasting no time playing around with that, quickly dealing with that one, as we saw. Again, Ace is getting dealt with nice and early on. This is starting to become a little bit of a problem. Like I said, it's only happened 2 times so far, but if it's going to become symptomatic of the rest of the half, that will lead into some pressure issues from Wild, trying to slow down the overall pacing from the Wolves, and as a result, Wolves will be left with more than enough time to not only actually execute into the site, but then to set themselves up properly to do that in the first place, meaning that those executes themselves will be a heck of a lot cleaner, unlike what we were really seeing from Wild, where their time was really being stretched to the bitter end in almost every single encounter, even though they had an advantage for most of the half.
Bomb located by attackers.
Not too much of a change coming out here for the Wolves, Pav. A couple of things happening here for Wild, though. Maybe bringing the Bandit to bear, and a couple other things to try and slow down the aggressive front of Wolves, especially when it comes to the throwables. You're looking at the frag grenades and some more of the launchable things like dead shots, breaching rounds that you could end up using a little bit later on. So we'll see if Wild can stand the test of time here, as they have plenty of utility in order to do so. Wolves are going to start wide and work small, as we've been seeing them do time and time again on these offensive rounds.
Slow wind-up from the Wolves, though, and all with a good, hopeful end to that build-up. If it's going to be anything like what we saw back in round number 8 there, Wolves able to quickly execute out most of the extended presence from Wild here, and this is a big part of it. P4 showing us some great Bravo usage in the previous round, able to bait in the previous round's cap can and knock out that player outright, which obviously gave him a pretty clean path into the site from that point forward. Just one example of how Wolves were able to take control. Not going to find it so much for free, though, on round number 9. Here, you're going to see not a whole lot for P4 to scout out. Even with the stolen camera, he just took directly above him at the moment, so still going to be waiting for his opportunity to strike. Biba, though, is finding quite a bit from that bottom to top angle, of course. using the IQ scanner in the process to try and knock out all of that mitigation utility that she has mainly scoped out so far.
My magnets will protect us. Magnet activated.
Well, slow and steady for the Wolves so far. Mowgli, though, be tripped up in the process. Gonna get taken down from Aces, as he has constantly been the bearer of bad news for the Wolves, hasn't he?
It's very much like him or no one as well, which is a bit of an issue for the Wolves, is that it seems, at least going off of this round, this may be a bit of a forward statement, but for the Wolves, it very much seems like it's either Mowgli making that initial play, or they just kind of like slowly build up towards a team execute. Like right now, look at this, like Deadshot has attempted to take up positioning, but he's been found out very quickly by Aces, so now he's free to kind of make his own mark because he's been detached from that initial duel against Mowgli, and it's just a bit of that domino effect. I think I described something similar a few rounds back here for the Wolves as well, where once again, because Mowgli got knocked out early on, the team just didn't really have much else to show for it. Shinka thankfully going to subvert those expectations a little bit with that first pickup he finds against Aces, but again, T3B, stalwart as ever on those trades, going to come back with another one here to still keep Wild in a +2 kill advantage position on the defense as well, so shouldn't be too much more effort required for the closeout. P4, correction here to trade things back out, still keep him in the fight, and a pre-fire to nearly get himself personal kill number 2, but team kill number 3 out of 5 here. Not able to capture that player as swiftly as he would have liked. This is where it slows down to a death crawl. More than likely a death crawl for him as well. And indeed, that would be the case as Hungry completes the set for Wild, locking in another round for them.
And just what a good showing from Wild here today. You know, you can definitely see that they've worked on quite a few of the things that were befuddling them before up against teams like Wolves, where they would end up just giving over their advantages, not really able to claim everything in, you know, some of these more crucial situations and see some of the better lines and opportunities that they could take. And now it's working out extremely well for them. They're able to try and battle back up against big names like Wolves and, you know, take the fight to people like Mowgli. But I will definitely agree with you in this. I think both of these teams are kind of falling to this right now, and that it is, you know, kind of that one-man show-esque kind of thing happening. But, you know, the key thing is that I think that Wild is doing it better at the current moment, where the people that are stepping up to the plate after Aces are just finding more success in their positioning, right? I think it's very similar circumstances where it's not a lot of big clusters of kills happening, right? Like there's no big sweeping executes happening or, you know, big team play moments happening from these defensive ends. It's really just been like big multi-kill happening from a single player that gets a good string of gunfights going for them. So we'll see if that could be an adjustment that they try and look at, but as of right now, it really seems like, you know, both of these teams are pretty hyper-focused on playing off of one position and trying to make the most out of that.
It's like a very early BDS style of play right now, which obviously is a bit ironic looking at Wolves and like their roster's heritage at the end of the day, but even for a while, I'm getting a few hints of that as well, where it just seems like a lot of the play focus is on Shaiko and like Shaiko only, and they've obviously fixed that tremendously in the last few years. It's no longer, at least from my POV, a primary issue for that team. There's some other stuff that potentially is holding them up in the long term, but that's a discussion for another day. Wolves is showing us primarily that very one-sided play, where it's very much Mowgli makes his mark or the team falls together, it seems, in at least 2 different rounds now. We've seen that happen for the most part. So all the focus is once again going to be on him to see if he can strike true yet again to keep his team on correct footing. It's only 2 rounds to go here for Wild, but Wolves is right behind them at a 5-4 scoreline.
Able to find a few pieces of utility here through the wall and the scanner of IQ, but past that, not really too much going the way of Wolves. They're wrapping themselves around this base floor, or for the library side of things. Have the logic bomb still to try and work things out for main stairs, and some assistance actually coming in from the Wild players. There you see that nice crossfire being built up from them. So Wolves kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place now, and they still have all of their bodies, so we're really looking for them to try and get this play going here. P4, he's going to make the aggressive play in. He plays you reverse window. Fantastic. So well done from him. Knows the hops there. very well done thus far from the Wolves, as they'll be able to claim the entirety of the basement off the back of their efforts.
Gotta give props again to T3V. He was surrounded in like a 1v3. He still got his one out of that situation. So stalwart, as I said at least once before for him. But yeah, stalwart as ever for T3V there. Like I said, always making sure that even if he's gonna go down, he's at least almost, 9 times out of 10 here, taking one of his opponents with him. And that's some great stuff to see, that level of consistency, even when under extreme pressure like we saw just there. One more member of WYLDE is going to get down, however, recovered now. That was Packbull. Mira getting knocked out for just a split second. Important to note, too, that one of the 3 remaining members is a clash that limits that player's potentiality to frag quite heavily. Realistically, from a gun perspective, it's kind of a 2v3 we're looking at here, and it's even worse when you look at the fact that Packbull really can't pop his head out. So Wolves with 2 strikes. Packbull responds with 1 on his own, but still 3 more to knock out here, and that case is very quickly being planted against his own favor. That was the one saving grace he would have had, but terrain gonna terrain, unfortunately. It blocks his nitro and blocks his chances for a clutch as Wolves rebound with the tying point at 5-5.
I'm just having flashbacks of Chalet now. I
Yeah.
think it seemed like we had a nice streak going here for WYLDE, and that the Wolves were kind of puttering out, but now we're back on the teeter-totter.
The same thing happened on Chalet, didn't it, though? At least at the beginning of the map, if I remember
Yeah, I think it
correctly?
was reversed, though. I think Wolves were the one who kind of
yeah.
shot ahead, and then, yeah. So the shoe's definitely on the other foot, but does that mean that Wolves are now going to be the one that wins Villa? That's the real question.
Well, we got 2 rounds to find out, especially if they do it the same way. So.
It'll definitely be interesting. We'll have to see what comes of that. We've definitely had an awkward back and forth in between these 2 teams, you can say, when it comes to Villa thus far. We had that pretty curious moment in the basement. One thing I've literally never seen before in my entire life. I'll be real with you.
It's a bit of a Looney Tunes around thing.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty cartoonish. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But past that, we've had a lot of highlight moments for some of the bigger names on both of these respective squads. So we'll see if they can try and keep on keeping on. But as for WYLDE, we really got to see a little bit extra out of the lower portion of this scoreboard here, but the same can be said for Wolves. It's really crucial time right now for both of these teams. This is where all the kills matter, to an nth degree more than what they did previously. Yeah, you did end up winning round 1, but when you end up winning round 11, that feels a little bit more crucial in that moment.
Yeah, it's very quickly become now 2 players kind of just taking the bulk of the heavyweight lifting when it comes to fragging power, at least on either one of these squads. It's P4. It's more recently become a bit more relevant in that respect, especially in this half for the Wolves, and we're potentially about to see them stay relevant here. Aces, on the other hand, obviously the go-to player from WYLDE, continues to excel. So he'll be the number 1 for that team, knocking out the number 2 from the Wolves as P4 gets eliminated first this time around by Aces. Obviously will have some limited potentiality inside of the basement itself, but we can already see him having rotated away from that, if I'm reading the silhouettes correctly. Vogely really not going to have a choice but to kind of pre-position himself there. There may have been a spot onto Aces a few seconds prior from down below, but he ends up changing the trajectory of that nade up 1 flight. More likely was some barbed wire or utility, otherwise positioned there. Aces a little bit late for this one, unfortunately. That's been a common problem with his nitros here, just like a second or 2 too late. Thankfully, the bullets are right where they need to be, and he finds the direct counter to his mortal enemy in Mowgli, knocking him down, and that's built up on top of another kill as well. So already leading 4-3. As T3B did finally falter this time around. That kind of perfect trade ratio going down a bit here, as it does. I do believe he is taken down outright this time.
Indeed he is, and now we go down to the last minute to decide this. 4 versus 3, while they built up this advantage, and they've only had to donate T3B for it. Looks like they won't be able to find too much more, though, as Aces, he finds himself all the way downstairs, just seeing if he could potentially pick somebody off outside. He was feeling himself a little bit too much there, John. And now might come back to bite them. WYLDE, they had everything in their advantage. They just had to play it out from sight, but obviously not the case there for Aces. So now an adjustment here for Wolves. They'll throw it over towards the study side to see if they can try and solve this puzzle.
2 Toxic Babes still in Packbull's pocket here, so hopefully the delay on top of the even player count is going to be enough of an advantage for WYLDE to win, but Aces definitely bit more of a questionable move depending on the outcome of this round to try and go for that aggressive swing right there, really playing heavily into the player advantage. We'll see if that gamble ends up being a more well-weighted one, if they can easily put a stop to the play. Here so far is not the case as Wolves take out one, but now the response is coming back in primarily from Jegs, but he's also been dropped, and this is now going to become an incredibly awkward 1v1. A race to the clock here, which Deadshot is just not going to be able to win, unfortunately, due to the clash in position. The operator's selection ultimately wins WYLDE the round, as it is an unwinnable 1v1 for that attacker.
And you can see why Clash is starting to work her way back into play. She's just so dang annoying to deal with, especially in those crucial moments. Not only does she have that shield to block the bullets, but also she has the electricity to slow you down, so you can't even get to her as quickly as you initially could to try and get that shield out of the way to kill her. It just becomes such a problem, especially inside of those 1v1 moments. WYLDE able to get out of the thick of it, even after that pickup onto aces coming through from Wolves, still able to secure the round. Very well done from them, and now looking to secure Villa in the same fashion that we saw them secure Chalet.
Just like Villa, of course, it is, or rather just like our first map on Chalet, it is going to be one and only opportunity that WYLDE have to get this done. Otherwise, Wolves tie it up, and we go for 3 more rounds to find the true winner out of the series inside of overtime, and potentially trigger that third map as well if Wolves are able to bring the rebound back under their control. Rounds have been a bit more teeter-tottery over the past few encounters, so Wolves are certainly not out of this encounter just yet. Like we've been mentioning, though, the pressure is on to those big fraggers, whether it's going to be Mowgli or P4 making the first impact. It more than likely has to come from one of those two, as we just have not seen a whole lot of highlightable play from the other 3 members of the team as of yet. Could always change.
Strong IQ play coming out here from Bibu, and he's discovered a couple of things here. This will also help with quite a few, actually, in all of the utility on board for WYLDE. Every single one of those battery-powered and or electric. So looks like they'll be able to at least solve a few different ends of this. DS's and my discs more than likely taking priority alongside those Valkyrie cameras, and you can never forget those Capcan traps either, is those things are trying to bite you in the ankles, deal some of that extra damage, and soften up some players for some easy gunfights. Looking for some extra utility inside of Study, but Deadshot won't find the Valkyrie camera until his second glance. Trying to get some better looks in towards the AVG area, so continue to try and clear out this space. P4 will add a cam into the works here for Red to make sure they've got the cross angle covered.
The interior AVG player has already dropped down, but I think it's taken Wolves a few extra seconds to fully realize that Mowgli gets the better, just barely, it looks like, too, of T3B there. He was just about ready to strike back, but never mind. T3B gets his health drained far before he gets significant damage onto Mowgli there. So a clean opener from the Wolves, exactly what we needed to see from them to stay in this game and trigger overtime. But again, like we mentioned before, that's just the first step here. Although a very important one. We need to see the rest of that follow through, and in good pacing as well. Don't want to be running the clock down and trying to rush their way into a 45 engagement. Even with that player count, they could still turn back against them pretty quickly if they don't have the appropriate amount of access. Technically shouldn't be too much of an issue here, assuming that they are able to get the angle clearance they need on that primary triple wall going into statuary, which, again, like I said before, should have more than enough utility to facilitate that opening. Hungry, though, strikes back now, and it's against Mowgli as well, so that entry power that we were talking about before now is removed from the team. Any nades that he would have had, which I think he still may have had one more in the pocket, also goes with that. Do we still have mute jammers on the other side of that hard breach? That's not the big question. Well, it doesn't actually matter. Never mind. As Deadshot, zero respect, just plays his hand directly into statuary, and even better, it works. Hungry coming in on the flank. Aces immediately counters. He walks right into that setup. Hungry doing all the heavy lifting right now as he's up to a triple. This will be an outright 1v5 if he can clutch it. Bibu tucks his head away behind the chassis and closes it down instead. Wolves rush their way into an overtime here by retying it back up at 6-6.
Well done from them, but oh my, WYLDE with an opportunity there that they are really, really going to want back. Hungry getting so much done. And as you said, a lot of the heavy lifting for him from that round, and just nobody else really there to try and help him claim what was rightfully theirs. Wolves able to get so much done in such a quick amount of time, and No real chance for WYLDE to try and recoup from that, minus what Hungary was able to accomplish. But with a one-man show like that, it's pretty easy for the Wolves to still try and solve that puzzle, even past the big triple coming from him. So now Wolves with the forced overtime. The good news for WYLDE, though, John, they have the guaranteed 2 defenses if we end up going the full breadth of this. Oh, Hungary? What? He's using the Express?
A shotgun here. We'll see how this pans out. It's thankfully, again, more likely just play the Thorn to a pretty tight angle. But that's going to be like deep inside of Study or somewhere else closer to the site by Bar. But should be able to work out fine as long as the role meshes with his current position of play, and I believe that will be the case.
Defuse a bomb.
Not something we get to see every day, like Stokes mentioned. And that'll be combined with the usual M590 from Packle as well. It's really doubling down on the shotgun pressure. We're expecting one of those to be kind of holding the gun vault side of things by Death Door, and the other one to be on the usual bar spot. More than likely is how they're going to try and spread that out if they don't want to throw them out into the open hyper aggressively, which Hungary is still out and about, but yeah, it's more likely making a return to the site now, it looks like. So it'll be slow play yet again here. Wolves still take their time really analyzing that first pick if they're going to be able to localize it. We're seeing quite a bit of success earlier on in this, well, what would have been the regulation attacking half for Wolves. With P4 bringing the Brava into the fold, kind of going in to steal that Mudroom default or another one, and then using that to bait in for a first kill, but no. It's going to be Mowgli just taking it directly yet again, and once more against Aces as well. That kind of like 1v1 coefficient between them has been dictating a large part of this game, but so have been those trades from T3B. He gets the better out of that #1 player from Wolves, and is able to take him down on the exchange. Going to cause a reset of the status quo here for both teams now. They're going to fall back to the site for the defense, and Wolves will position themselves to start crunching that insight setup here. Obviously without any real advantages to play off of anymore, since they have been traded out.
Attackers dropped the diffuser. Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Well, with 1:10 remaining now, Wolves do have some chance here. Try and push this on to the penultimate point. Trying to make this a very difficult round for WYLDE, as we'll be ending up switching sides, and they haven't played an offense for some time, so it might be a little jarring for them. Oh, that's the angle P4 was able to find it. Some big shots here, a crucial moment back and forth, 2 versus 3 now for WYLDE. They will at least be able to try and battle back for the time being. P4 as well as Bibu will start trying to work their way in towards Study. Some big kills here from Hungary, but he gets taken down from P4. Packbolt has 1 smoke remaining. Case in hand. P4 will start planning this in behind the maps table. Off. Oh, and he knows where he is. He's going to bear down on it. Some nice shots. P4. Oh, the Thorn Trap. Won't get him. Has to work his way in. Has to get up onto the table. Big shots here. Oh, the SMG-11. It gets so much damage off, but Packbull, he shuts him down.
You can see
such a moment, John. Yes, you saw it. You saw it too. Oh, it was stuck to the pillar. He tried to get it out, but it was stuck. Oh my gosh. He was trying to play that cover so very tight-knit, so tightly, but still able to get it over on that lone member of Wolves. So very well done from Packball, as he'll make sure WYLDE maintain the advantage.
Just trying to play it as hyper passively as he could there. Knows he has that limited amount of ammo coming from the SMG-11 as well, so plays it, basically waits and is going to be the second reaction out of that fight, which I think is the very smart way to approach that situation. Allows for the member of the Wolves to kind of waste most of the clip that they have inside of their gun, and then he pops out for a second response. Had to really play the patient game there and play heavily into his game sense to know when the right time to pop out would be, and thankfully he chose correctly there. Beautifully done by Packbull there. It's a very important win for WYLDE. Now has set them up for victory. They can even breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief if this one doesn't necessarily go their way on the attacking side. And we saw a little bit more of a tumultuous run towards the tail end of their own regulation attacking rounds. But at the same time, will still have to come back give us a bit more of a convincing second defensive win, as that one only comes out from the clutch right there. I know you're wanting something a little bit more convincing to try and lock away not only this map, but this series, if they could potentially do it on that next round instead of this one.
Now, that was a pretty wild one there coming out of Wild. Yeah, no pun intended, honestly. Like, that was just really, really crazy. So, we'll see if they can try and pull the wool over the eyes of the Wolves here again. But as of right now, definitely in the driver's seat. They're actually going to come through with a pretty funky operator lineup as well. Not something we see too often, especially with the Glass Blitz Amaru coming in. So we'll see what they can exactly get done with these ops. Looks like they're trying to build things up over for a study take of sorts.
Is going to be one of the first direct insertions in the study we see if they're putting hyper-aggressive pressure onto it. Mowgli tries to take the challenge from the inside of the map room window there, as well as towards the outside of the connector. And unfortunately pays the price for it. A little bit of damage going out, but way more going back on him, as he's now brought down to just about 20% of his overall HP. So we'll have to think twice about going for those aggressive swings and try to make those more forward plays in the future, which opens up a whole bottle of possibilities for players like Aces and some of the other kind of mid-round heroes here like T3B. But T3B, similarly to Mowgli, is going to be limited by some of the damage he took off the rip too.
Slow and steady now for Wild, as they're looking to address Wolves' defensive prowess for this very last round. Mowgli and Deadshot already decently low. These fights could spell demise for them. Frag grenade land on deaf ears for Jags underneath. His position will now be known. Still have that other frag grenade to try and solve another equation on down the line, and plenty of drones to try and suss out some of the harder positions to discover of the Wolves as well. Glass will be up now, upside down on the window. Another smoke out here for T3B. Aces will continue to try and back him up on the far end here as he'll harass Bust Door. Knows if there is a shield in on this. Could potentially have an aggressive player up close and personal for him. He is swinging back and forth, and Ace is completely caught off guard. Mowgli gets full control of this, and it's going to be a swing in onto the actual stat area. Be able to take down one and study Mowgli. He'll reposition here. Glass in as well. I don't think anybody knows he's in on this portion of the wall. Mowgli with some huge kills and a huge round for the Wolves. We're going max OT to try and solve it here on Villa.
Too much hesitation, unfortunately, especially from the outset of that study take from Wild there. Trying to wait for that moment of opportunity has oftentimes put our teams in the losing position. We see another example of that right there on that round. It's Mowgli that takes command of his own destiny in that round and decides to take the swing for himself with perfect timing to counter out the similar aggression that we were getting at that moment from Aces. Aces just not expecting that play, and Mowgli continues to subvert the expectations too. Jumps out a second, third time I think before he finally reaches the end of his kill streak on that round and never actually goes down. I don't believe by the time it finishes off. I think it's down to like the last second or two, but his job was more than done by that point. So the pressure shifts now right back over onto Wild, who do need to find that solid second defense. Keep in mind, of course, as we were mentioning before, it was the clutch that ultimately gave them the previous round win there from Packpool's POV inside of the 1v1. So going to be wanting something a little bit more convincing here, especially considering the site that we are on as well. Wolves can very easily take full site control if there is a domino effect fall apart like we saw in the previous round.
10 seconds left.
Yes, indeed. We'll have to see, though. These teams have been so back and forth with each other. Not only that, but Wild have also brought Clash to bear as well, and we've seen how that's worked out in recent history for a bunch of these teams. It's not boded too well for them, has it? So, see if too much comes from that. But as for Wild now, and well, Wolves especially, as they're out and about on the board now, Boot will be working his way in with the rest of the squad from the studies side, trying to address things when it comes to this bottom floor. Still have a couple of things to try and cross and make sure they don't end up crossing too many things over and get themselves caught off guard from this top floor setup of Wild that we see currently being held down inside of AVG.
uneventful so far for the first minute as Wolves once again try to wind themselves up for one fell swoop execute, which seemed to work out very well for them on the previous round. Got a few players with at least a slight insertion into the building just to establish some initial positioning, like Deadshot. Working his way with like 2 drones bracing him as well, so like double the insurance policy here as he carves his way through. He's more of just kind of a second thought to maintain the actual positioning more than he's actually taking this full control for himself. The drones, for the most part, have done that, and now that he reaches a potential contention point at 90, immediately has a teammate group up with him here. So it's really just that initial shape-up happening for the Wolves right now. They're trying to build up the confidence to go for their actual execute at some point in the next 33 seconds. Aces! Those nitro cells have been evading him, but this one finally sings as he's able to knock out a very important player, P4. Second to none when it comes to those mid-round trades, and oftentimes the second to Mowgli if he falters in the early round as well. Now eliminated, but Mowgli himself still in the fight. Bibu currently being slowed down by Hungry as well, just on the outside of Death's Door, and Deadshot, again, a no-respect play. This won them at least one round previously for the Wolves. Deadshot's going to try to line it up once again. Now his teammate joins him with the case in hand as well. Deadshot shifts his focus to the rotate through Astro instead. T3B picks up one, but Aces falters right after the fact. It's still an even fight between these teams, and Hungry is trying to hold Bibu back, but quickly we're seeing Hungry get pressed into a corner. That'll lead to his elimination on top of the loss of T3B. Jegs is all that remains, but Jegs has not been discovered yet and immediately gets a pre-fire headshot off on a Deadshot, removes the advantage of his position on the inside of Trophy. Jegs, however, doesn't have the best of intel to play it out from here. Has the pre-fire read, but looks away at the wrong moment, doesn't get that second kill out of 3 he needs to win this round and win the game along with it, win the series on top of that as well. It's looking more and more like a Wolves round than a Wolves game to send us on to map number 3. As he delays, Wolves' position just gets stronger and stronger. Retake coming back in. There's kill number 2, but the immediate repeat from Bibu to shut it down triggers map number 3 as Wolves get the job done at the bitter end of overtime and send us onto that third and final map that was dodged during the EU LCQs, but now is finally going to be played here at the Gamers Without Borders semifinal.
Now back and forth we go in between these two, and you really thought that WYLDE had it, especially with the big pickup there from Aces. He'd been in the driver's seat for the majority of the game, and usually when they have those big advantages, not really a moment there for Wolves to try and battle back. But inside of this circumstance, obviously not the case. The Wolves able to bring it back inside of overtime, even though they had to try and win things out from 2 different offensive, perspectives. So quite creative ways that they were able to get things done there for themselves, especially with, them being able to break things down inside of that last round, find some of the, more, disclosed fights, especially up against Clash. Hungry getting cornered all on his lonesome and getting dispatched because of that. So, just very, very well done across the board from them.
That's going to do it for map number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Map number 3 on Kafe is coming up right around the corner. Stick with us, and we'll have the conclusion of this series starting right after this.
Every day, it feels like there is a new crisis. Families displaced by violent earthquakes and wars. Warm hearts sleeping under cold blankets of stars. Lives destroyed and washed away. Families fleeing into the unknown. But look closer. See the hope everywhere. See the ones running towards disasters to help. Compassion exists all around the world. Kindness is healing wounds, bringing hope for a brighter tomorrow. Look closer and see the many families like Layla's who've lived through unimaginable hardships and yet haven't given up. Please don't give up on those forced to flee. Donate now.
Progress is a race that has no end. After every finish line, another challenge awaits. How can we continue to push innovation in a sport at the forefront of technology? This is how. Discover how Aramco and the Aston Martin Formula One team aim to meet Formula One's sustainable fuel targets. Aramco, powered by How.
We're back once again, ladies and gentlemen, with the Gamers Without Borders Rainbow Six event, wrapping things up for day one of our qualifier action here as we work our way through these semifinals here in Europe now. Already worked our way through the Korean and Japan semifinals a little bit earlier on, of course, with secondary games going on over on the primary stream. We got the same thing going on now for this series as well. Eminem playing things out. In fact, may have already finished their other matchup, but we're focusing things up here between WYLDE and the Wolves. WYLDE taking control of map number 1, but the Wolves battling it back, going to a full 15 rounds, but ultimately taking control of map number 2 of this series. Sends us to our third and final one on Kafe Dostoyevsky. Stokes, how do we think it's going to fly here? As it's been a little bit more of a teeter-totter, I would say, transitioning away from the bit more streaky nature that we had to start things out on our first map.
You know, it's funny that you said fly and cafe relatively in the same sentence, because I think that's exactly what's going to happen is we're going to see some high-flying things on cafe that could involve flying out of windows, John. We've seen some crazy stuff happen in between these two teams, some crucial blunders, some crazy moments. I mean, it's definitely been quite the fun affair here so far on Gamers Without Borders, especially for our European representatives. So very excited to get into this and see exactly what they have to offer us on Kafe.
This is where, again, those potential weaknesses for the less experienced teams, in this case, kind of pointing towards WYLDE there, to potentially have those weaknesses show up. They mentioned it themselves in the video we showcased before we went live with this game as well, that for those longer length series, like best of 3s, and of course, the potential best of 5 they're going to play into tomorrow, that's where they may potentially get beaten out there just in terms of the long game. We'll see if that ends up being true. We're already seeing potential signs of struggle for a few of the players going into a deeper series now, such as like Aces and whatnot, not being able to keep his entry game together as consistently as he was earlier on in map number 2. That could have made the crucial difference at the end of the day. That's very much been part of the storyline here. Is there too much effort being focused on just one, or in some cases 2 players? And does the rest of the team need to potentially step up to make up that difference? We'll be finding out if those same issues echo forward, of course, and what new storylines will also come to bear as we go live with map number 3. Right now, let's get into Kafe as the bands are going live. So far, not a whole lot changing, of course. Wolves keeping tradition with the Ying band that we also had on the previous 2 maps, and I would imagine things will play out pretty similarly aside from that, too. No real reason for things to suddenly divert despite the map change. And actually, alright, man, it's making a fool out of me. WYLDE bans out the Yana, which we've been seeing used quite a bit, of course, by Wolves' primary member at the moment.
Very well done from them. I like this more creative band that we got on the offensive side. Are they going to try and change it up on defense at all? No, we're going to go with the Azami as well, so...
This is where things tend to stay a little bit more straightforward. We might see the Cade band here just to make the play on the inside of Kitchen a little bit easier, but nope. triangle ban. Valkyrie was used quite a bit once again by another member of Wolves here, but this time obviously Wolves throwing that ban out themselves. That's more of a self-handicap more than anything else. WYLDE's ban obviously a bit more targeted towards the members of Wolves themselves, specifically with the Yana knockout going in the way of Mowgli's playstyle, as we were seeing for the previous 2 maps. Obviously he'll have a pretty confident backup though, so that shouldn't be too much of a subversion for him. We'll just have to wait and see how he adjusts.
All right, well, let's get into this and see what they have to offer us up on Kafe. So, Aces and WYLDE coming off a pretty strong showing, I'd say, on Villa, especially for Ace's sake. He just really wasn't able to shut it out in crucial time, was he, John? He was able to get the big pick, but not able to find what was really necessary to close out the remaining portion of that very last round. That's where we saw Wolves finally able to get it over on WYLDE and claim their big map and get us on over here. So we'll see what the WYLDE are capable of on this offensive side. When it comes to the offense of Kafe, it is quite a lethal map. It is very, very difficult to process. A lot of repel game coming into play, quite a few windows, and just so many different areas that the defense can really exploit you, especially if the big picks come through from the defense. You know, there could be some big moments that we see, you know, just simply go away because of the utility that WYLDE end up losing. So we'll see exactly what comes to bear in between these two teams, but just be aware of what WYLDE have to really consider coming into this and just how beneficial a lot of this utility is to breaking down a map like Kafe.
Usual initial setup being made by WYLDE, although no real map control being taken, at least for another 10 or 15 seconds. As you can see, they try to set themselves up for a quick rotate into upstairs Cigar here and take that control. Quickly past that point. There's a pretty direct counter to that take route from Wolves, though, as you see not just 1, but 2 players countering that push from the inside of either Pixel or the bathroom directly next to Pixel there. So WYLDE gonna have to work a little bit harder for that initial control. Usually see teams able to get it earlier rather than later, although we're almost halfway through the round and still no sign of WYLDE having the confidence to make that forward play. Just as of yet, they need a bit more of a hard counter on the potential Whitehall rotate from Wolves. Otherwise, they're going to continue to assert their pressure. Thankfully, works out for the members of WYLDE as T3B gets the first kill of the game against Mowgli of all players.
Well, Wolves will be starting off on the back foot here, and unfortunately enough, it's going to be the Wamai as well, as he can continue to add discs to the equation and make things a little less easy for WYLDE. But although the offensive perspective a little difficult when it comes to Kafe, doesn't seem like too big of a task to manage for WYLDE thus far, as they've already taken down 2 crucial pieces to this puzzle. Shinka soon to falter as well, as a Nitro Cell will go wide. It does deal a little bit of damage to Jags, but now Bibu, he's stuck inside of Pixel, trying to get this gunfight to go his way. The pre-fire's coming out. Shinka with a nice Nitro Cell onto Jags will finally get them something, but they need a lot more in order to take this round.
Patiently waiting, but the swing comes through, and he is not prepared for the fight, unfortunately. So T3B gets his second kill of the round because of that. Shinka at least responded with another pickup. So WYLDE only had that small +1 advantage to work off of here as they come down to the final 25 seconds of their execute deadshot, giving no information over to WYLDE in the process of continuing to hold the very far primary bar table. Can pop up like this and surprise perfectly to knock out Aces. Of course, it's a short-lived surprise from him, and T3B continues to excel in his own way. He takes out one more member of the squad there. Some great start from him. Much better solidarity being found from everyone on WYLDE for that execute to work out and give them round 1 of this game.
Yeah, WYLDE keeping the guns hot and the plays aggressive and coordinated. Really like what we're seeing here as they're able to process this top floor quite handedly, I'd say, John, especially for that position that we saw from Bibu, able to keep him limited over inside of Christmas and not allow him to, you know, kind of play that counter angle. That could have been a really, really big issue for them going on to the later portions of that round. Instead, they quickly get the transition over towards Long Bar, get that problem dealt with, and then push that into a very, very nice entry onto the actual site and a cleanup of the last few bodies that Wolves had to offer. So Wild still bearing teeth here, it seems, through Kafe. It's up to the Wolves now to try and keep a dog in this race.
Had to reposition quite a bit to make that attacking setup work, but eventually did force the issue, especially through primary bar as well. That's often a very risky push. There's one facet of the flank open, and that whole setup is going to fall to pieces because of the multi-frag potential of that player on the flank, but does not end up coming true this time for Wild. They make the execute work, and they scare Wolves away from retrying the same site as well, so they're going to continue to be able to execute as needed. Now on to the first floor hold here. We can expect a bit of a top-down clear to quickly come through. Wolves are playing almost entirely, it looks like, on the horizontal angle, just keeping, again, as far as I can see so far, Mowgli on the third floor. Extension, of course, this is going to be the player you want in that position on the Solus specifically, as he can see pretty much everything coming, specifically when it comes to drones. He'll be that surprise late addition when it comes to the flank game, more than likely, as Wild waste the rest of their own time trying to clear out the horizontal setup, all focused on the first floor.
What an angle here from Aces. And a great gun for it as well. He's got the 417. Able to deal some considerable damage from a range like this. Even if he tags him, John, it's got to be over his half his HP bar with a single bullet. That's a scary thing. See how long he wants to hold on to that for is... I mean, really at any moment it could be the differentiating factor here for the round. Jegs is going to take a lot of damage. He might still have the opportunity to win it out, but the impacts, the Pokeballs from P4, he'll claim his life. So very well done. P4! Packbull, he's feeling himself, John, but shouldn't have been at that moment as he's just trying to pick up the pieces. P4, he's going to evacuate the top floor. He gets back inside. They drop down the side here. He is back inside of prep. He has made it out alive. It's going to be Mowgli that dies next to the hands of Aces.
P4 in the meanwhile saying, all good, guys. I got this. I just base jumped my way back to the site.
What the hell has happened?
Meanwhile, Bibu's slaying out as he picks up another kill here. Ace is left alone. If anyone can do it, it's him, but this is probably going to be asking a bit too much, realistically. The 1v4, he has to start it from the outside position. The Case is down on the third floor. He has less than a minute to make this play, where Case may actually be down on the roof. Can't tell for certain right now, but we'll get some intel in a second.
It's in Narnia. That's all you need to know.
It's too far. That's the problem here. And for Aces to realistically go pick that up and still work the outright retake of the site as well, with 4 players barely being touched on the side of Wolves. I think that was a Nitro coming back out there, attacking directly onto Ace's position just a few seconds early. Ace is just taking some pot shots in the meanwhile here. Not really anything that he can do, and I think he's finally realized it. So just wasting out the time, allowing the team to kind of talk about things inside of their own comms while he tries to stat pad a little bit with the remaining 20 seconds. The round is pretty much over, though. Wolves are going to tie it up at 1-1.
15 seconds remaining.
And not really much for him to do. I mean, like, might as well
like
talk
I said,
about the
there's
round.
not really much of a chance of a clutch, so just waste out the time. At least let the in-game leadership kind of talk about things while he's continuing to wind down the clock. No consequence to that. And yeah, otherwise just kind of accept your fate if you're in his position.
Yeah, big chillin' right now. So looks like they'll end up losing out the round. It's going to be a 1-1 in between these two. But to be honest, are you shocked? Are you surprised? Because I'm not. These two have been back and forth for the majority of this game now. You know, Wild did have that really, really solid streak for themselves there on the beginning of Kafe, right? You know, attached to the tail end of what we'd seen on their initial map. Or rather Villa, but you know, past that, it's really been back and forth ever since that mid portion of Villa coming into Kafe. So I honest to God think that we're just going to continue to go back and forth on this kind of roller coaster in between these two. This teeter-totter is just going to keep on keeping on. You know, it seems like we have a lot of constants here, and it really seems like a lot of these crucial gunfights have been kind of a coin flip in between these two teams.
Once again, the time continues to tick down. We see no sign of either team taking full control of this matchup, but they continue to exercise their own prowess as necessary. Have to wait and see which part of this cream rises to the top. takes control of this series along with it to surge forward into the best of 5 grand final tomorrow. It's going to be X and Demo, I do believe, covering that matchup for you guys. It's bound to be a good time, and just like we saw for this matchup as well, it'll be the second game of the day when we get into tomorrow's game. Starting things out with the Korean and Japan final that myself and Stokes will be covering bright and early tomorrow morning as well, or tomorrow evening, of course, for those of you watching from a local APAC area. Away from that, though, pretty slow play once again as WYLDE just kind of winding themselves up, taking up those initial positionings that they even need to get just to be able to kind of drone things properly, so there is going to be quite a bit of dull time on this map while those teams build up towards that point.
We're going for the aggressive look there for a second. Aces, you were scaring me. No. I'm going to go for the repel instead and see if he can work his way up towards the heaven window. Jags and the rest of the gang, though, will try and dawn things over on the far side as they'll work their way to the top of the red stairs and work their way in towards Christmas. Bulletproof will suss out a couple of the players up top here for the offense, and defense might be able to recoil because of that. And what a shot there from Deadshot. This is exactly what he was looking for. So he was the one that was constantly on the camera there looking to see what he could potentially get done, as he'll deal the death blow to Hungry there. P4, though, will also go down in the meanwhile, as WYLDE is trying to process this top floor as quickly as possible. They have 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining, but a lot of sledge work to do, and Wolves potentially looking to try and reclaim up here.
I know 1 minute to go for WYLDE. Still quite a bit of clearance needing to be made, but Aces could speed things up dramatically. Once he gets that thorn out of his leg, of course, a little bit of delay for him. But still in a great position as there's no counter to it currently from the Wolves being lined up over by pillar side here. He is clear as crystal to make a push, and you can see it. Look at this freedom movement he has due to the, to be fair, continued upstairs presence from the Wolves themselves. But if he starts things out well, the rest of his teammates can follow that through, and we should be seeing that any moment now. Ace has struck first down below, cleared out a path over towards dining room, but does not have the courage to push himself further than that. Never mind, he's working himself towards Hell Door instead. Or not him, but T3B is going to find the next pickup here against Deadshot. Now he can begin to postulate a potential direct swing into the site. Even if he goes down here, should have a teammate ready to work on the back end, and a DB2. Bebo gets one. He runs out of ammo for the second pick, but is still able to make things work, thankfully, as he has some support coming in there from Packbull, actually, who closes things down into his team's favor instead.
You really got to feel for the smoke there. It's just not enough bullets in the SMG-11 to try and claim both kills there. Tries to switch it over to the shotgun, but does not have enough in the tank, and WYLDE are going to take the round because of it. 2-1 now for WYLDE, as we're going to head on to Reading and Fireplace Hall, one of our most successful sites when it comes to the history of Kafe, and we'll see if that is going to be the case here for the Wolves.
WYLDE continuing to excel in the meanwhile, though, after that great kind of last second, quite literally, I think, last second clutch comes in there for a member of WYLDE as well. They keep themselves held together. Now, as a result of that one, we find ourselves in a leading scenario here, obviously, for the WYLDE roster, but still could very easily find that broken. The historical nature of this series is anything to go off of so far, but back to the third floor extension, because we do play into that similar second floor site for the Wolves. WYLDE will call that one, or rather, Wolves will call that one as a little bit of a fluke, and head right back down into the same site for a retry.
5 seconds left. Attacker's objective is to defuse a bomb.
Out on the field we go for the WYLDE, as we'll see what they can potentially get going in this round. They're going to have the air jab wielding Nomad back out here for T3B, as well as some new additions, especially when it comes to the hard breach here for Packball. We'll be on to Habana for this one. So Hungry as well as Aces will be bringing up our soft breachers when it comes to the party. Be a really big key piece of this, as well as Jags, as they're trying to assault onto that reading room area. A lot of the verticality on this top floor meaning so very much to the success of this round, as you can dislodge a lot of the players on that second floor, make their life a heck of a lot harder. You can end up claiming that top floor area.
So much like round number 3 here, WYLDE initially not showing a whole lot of aggression out, going to challenge a potential hard point for the Wolves here. P4 with a bit of an early toss of the impact to try and counter any roaming drones that would have worked their way down the staircase, although I don't believe there were any. More of just a premature move than anything here. But either way, WYLDE begin to flutter in, at least to the top floor positions. Start to set up as they do focus on this clear downstairs. P4 gonna have an angle to potentially counter this advance, but the drone kills any of the surprise he might have had from down in the corner. And he realizes that too, so gives the respect over to that one and backs away quite quickly to give that room for T3B to make his play instead.
Secure sensor looking out. Changing max.
New angles being adopted here for WYLDE as this play is beginning to build itself up to claim the top floor. Aces, he had it the first time around, John, but he just wanted the info, not the kill. All bread, no butter. It looks like, well, at least for the Wolves, they're going to ultra back just a bit here. And as for Bibu, continue to try and hold on to the top area, playing right in next to the ladders. Swings back through here for Cocktail. Doesn't really have too much cover to try and play off of. The aggressive push through. The drop down now. Nobody really trying to suss him out yet again. This might be the perfect opportunity for him, and it will be.
There we go.
Bibu keeps the top floor. He's going to actually be able to claim yet another here as well, but that'll be from Shinka's perspective instead, and WYLDE falling apart now. Bibu trying to hold on to that top floor continually. Packbull will actually have to try and help out with this onslaught of Wolves players that are trying to reclaim the site at the moment. T3B will be able to pick up at least one, but will be traded out from that up top position. And another one coming through, and it's going to be Bibu inside of Laundry to finally shut this one down. Is quite an awkward affair as it's back and forth in between these two, not only in the round, but also on the round count, as it'll be a tie yet again in between them.
Yeah, WYLDE just kind of losing themselves there in the final moments of the fight from the 2v2 specifically. Wolves just with better positioning to play off of there. And as a result of that one, they trip up WYLDE multiple times and slowly whittle down what remains of that attacking roster in those dying few moments. That finally completes the rotation as well. For the members of Wolves just need to go one extra round and try and lock away that initial second floor hold. So now they complete the set and make a return all the way up to the third floor here. We're going to try and go for round number 3 and lock in at least the tie point for halftime, which we're very close to, if not outright at that for the majority of this series. We got a 4-2 and then a 3-3 previous map here. So we're very close to that yet again, as this series is keeping itself quite close. The highlight right now, though, is once again what you see at the very top of the screen there. T3B taking over that kind of all-star role here for WYLDE right now and making up the huge difference when it comes to the impact power. Just not enough, at least as far as the last round was concerned.
5 seconds. Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
Pretty aggressive front being shown from WYLDE here, at least operator line-wise. We'll have to see what they can potentially get done here. Packbull be bringing in the F7, or F7, my goodness, the 417. I'll just see if they try to adopt the earlier angles, but not too much coming of it right now. Just going to try and transition up to the top level and see if they can try and work their way in towards Christmas and everything that comes with it. Still have some claymores to try and place down as well to try and assist them with any hop outs that do come to bear, but nothing at the current moment at least. As for the rest of the gang, though, looking to see if they can potentially get an aggressive look on the far side, and it'll work out initially, but yeah, Ace is going to get quickly punished, and that's going to be a huge piece of what they had going for them going into this round. But they've also gotten Mowgli off the board as well, and although 0-5, he has been playing quite well throughout this series so far.
E1D is now gone. Obviously, as Stokes was mentioning before, needing to try and use the Twitch drones to get some of that intel instead. They know there's not much of a threat of a rotation through Freezer, so that should be a pretty straightforward go-ahead for any players on the inside of Cigar itself. But they only have one in that position is the problem, and there's still 2 elements of this third floor play that has not really been accounted for yet. They're going to read as 3 elements because they may not be aware of that player rotated downstairs as well. Too much to deal with here. Good counter from Hungry, though. Even with the sidearm, that's a bit tough to control the aim right there. And he gets it done regardless against Bibu's own aggression. Beautifully countered out there to prevent Wolves getting the one-up on WYLDE. Now it's WYLDE getting that very same benefit by punishing the aggression of the defenders.
Well, this last minute will tell the tale of what round 5 has to offer for us. Wild have at least been able to build it up this far. They've got some solid positioning around Cigar. But they still have to try and find some of these harder fights over on the other corners of this top floor. Pixel still well in the right of Wolves. Although some top angles befuddling Wild at the current moment. Deadshot. Rock in a hard place right now. Packbold bears down his location. He'll be able to take him out. It's going to be all left up to Shinka, as he does have at least the cross here for Cocktail, but not able to find crucial shots. It'll be T3B instead to take him down from heaven. Very well done, as Wild are putting together a heck of a case to try and build something up here on Kafe.
3-round minimum confirmed, a chance to make it 4 here, but only one chance, of course, to do it, with Wolves being right on their tail. Had to force the issue a little bit to get some of that initial control over on Cigar's side, but actually once they had maintained that for themselves, aside from the early loss of aces, Execute went off without too much of an issue, just your expected trades on a pretty closely fought site, as it often is upstairs on that 3rd floor. Wolves will not make the reattempt as we usually expect from them. They're just moving right along schedule, with the rest of their site holds already having to play one extra site hold on the 2nd floor, Chalet. So we won't get to see that one replayed. They did it a little bit early, obviously, and now we're just going to see them play the final round of the half out down on their kitchen hold, where once again they're looking to repeat the success from a previous round.
All right, well, Wild are going to be working something in that's pretty unique, but one that we see quite often when it comes to Kafe. It's going to be the Gridlock coming out for Hungary. That's going to help them out with a lot of the stair play, making it toward those track stairs. Will soak up a lot of the rotation potential from Wolves. A lot of these impacts can more than likely be used to try and dislodge that, but we'll see if P4 still has those at the end of the day, as those could be used for some other means of rotation later on in towards the round. So Ace is going to try and work his way up towards the roof with the remainder of the squad, as it looks like they're going to be going for the traditional method of clearing Kafe, the good old top-down. You know, especially as they have brought Packbull and Jigs as well, with the Sledge and Buck. This is seriously going to help them as, you know, they get that top floor cleared out, potentially some frags coming through. P4, a lot of damage onto him. Aces will pick that up, and this makes it even easier for them to try and break up this flooring and make it so very difficult for the defenders to try and work things out on that base floor.
Good quick shutdown of the extended roamer. Thankfully, all of P4's utility would have more than likely been used in the actual setup phase, of course, in the form of those Banshees. They've had a few in the pocket, but Mowgli now also going to get caught as well. Now we start to see a much greater effect of the overall in-round economy being made, and that at least one Nitro cell there being knocked out before it really has a chance to be used. That issue continues to devolve here, as well as unfortunately rotating into sites that they're now losing the majority of here. We go over towards Shinka's POV, having just lost Bibu as well. Shinka is next up to bat, and he unfortunately will be not able to stand up to the challenge. Deadshot with a neat little 360, or rather a 180, as he discards his position on the 2nd floor, but is also going to discard his own life in giving away that position by trying to fire some shots from the SMG-11 onto that Cigar take. Nicely done once again there from the Execute on Wild side, as they still give us a very convincing half. 4-2 at the end of the day, although we have seen this once, I believe, from them already here back on map number 1. So now time to see if they can capture that advantage with a nice little 3-round run here out of the remaining 6 we still have yet to play in order to win this map and the series along with it.
Now, the world is their oyster, but, you know, if there's one thing that we know about the Wolves, they have definitely been able to play spoils to Wild in a lot of these circumstances. So we'll see what they can potentially get going here, but the Wild are going to start things off on the base floor.
If I know anything about oysters.
You know that Parker eats them a lot?
They're gross. That's all I know about oysters. So
yeah, Parker would definitely hate you for saying that, for sure.
Just wanted to make sure that statement was as pronounced as possible, in case anybody wants to challenge me on that. But anyway.
Dude, this oyster hate. What's up with all this? You don't like salty snot? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, I don't like snot that tastes like seawater.
That's really it. That's exactly,
that
that's
is what it
exactly
is.
what it tastes like. And I love it. I eat them all the time.
They're like,
so.
here, put this sauce on it. It tastes much better. Well, then we're not eating the oyster then, are we? We're eating the sauce. There's a conundrum here. We need to
how about you eat oysters Rockefeller and you live with it? How about that?
I thought those aren't. Someone told me those aren't real oysters. So.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're real oysters. They just do a bunch of stuff to them, like put cream cheese in them and stuff.
That's cheating. All right. Anyway,
Listen, that's what I'm saying for you. Oysters Rockefeller. There you go, man. You're welcome.
Moving on from that, we do see.
No. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
They're sent up to the top floor now. They try to start that top-down clear. They do have to be a little cognizant, as we had one member of course, Wolves playing their position up on top of there. Usually the form was Solus. Does not look like Wild have really done that, however. They've just gone for the pretty straightforward horizontal setup. So Wolves, once they detect that, will be pretty clean and clear to focus entirely on destabilizing the first floor play from Wild.
Well, drone work in here for P4. At least one of the Brava drones is looking to steal a little bit of utility away, as well as gather some info. We'll get rid of the Wamai disc here for himself inside of Small Bag. And so far, all good on all fronts for Wolves. Not too much going on when it really comes to any of the team or any of the members right now. Everybody's really dedicated to their crosses and making sure that Wolves can't overplay their hand and end up, kicking one past Wild here.
Winding up a little bit of aggression to swing in over here through garage by White Stairs, and they're indeed going to commit themselves to that smoke to cover off the cross and focus entirely on knocking out the player inside of Christmas. And in fact, not even going to need their guns to do that, but T3B not needing any respect to get back into this game either. Jegs with 3 of his own now. I believe he's the player inside a coat check, just dab it out here for pick after pick after pick, leaving it all on Shinken out for the Wolves in a 1 versus 4 scenario. Nothing that he can realistically do, as that was an all or nothing take attempt from the Wolves, and unfortunately it is blown up in their face, and that is taking it lightly now. Probably going to potentially have to go back to the drawing board on that one. Would not be surprised in any sense if we see a very quick pause come in here from the Wolves as well, as we now reached a dangerous phase of the game. Just 2 rounds to go, and there's quite a demanding lead built up for Wild.
Yes, indeed. 5-2, I do believe here. And yes, indeed, Wild jetting ahead when it comes to Kafe, as it seems all of the circumstances that Wolves have been dealing with at the moment just really not something that they can try and deal with. I mean, like, they have not been able to solve a lot of the different fronts that we've seen from Wild, as they've constantly been able to take away a lot of the key pieces of utility that Wolves have had. And it makes it really difficult for the Wolves to try and work their way through the map. They're not really able to apply pressure in the same way to Wild because they're down so many guns, as well as they just don't have the utility to really try and work the map in the same way in the first place. You're losing some of your soft breach, you're losing some of your hard breachers. There's just not nearly as many access points to the site and to these valuable kills as there are, with the other circumstances that you could potentially have, actually having those things, for the later portions of the round. So we'll see if Wolves can potentially try and right some of their early round wrongs coming into round 8, but no tech timeout allotted here for them. They're feeling as though just bullheading their way into this is the right way to go.
Well, Wolves, yet again, like you mentioned before, not taking the attack timeout just yet, but certainly they want to consider it soon. They are looking to get themselves back into this series. Modicum of adjustment to their overall strat game, especially if their out-of-game leadership wants to give input in that regard. Move themselves forward. I think they just eat up one of their drones. Oh, never mind. Oh, that's 2 of their drones now being shot out. One of Bibu's, I think, accidentally takes some team fire right there. So not the best turn of events, but they still have... It's going to be 7 more, I believe, in the pocket, so they're not really reaching for drones just as of yet. We'll check back in on that later into the round, of course, and see if that's potentially going to become more of a stressful problem when we get down to that, 30-second mark, whatever. Wild, of course, just living life on easy streets so far up on the 2nd floor. No longer is that going to be the case, though, as Deadshot has suddenly woken the whole neighborhood with his opening pick against T3B.
Oh, Jags! Be able to at least keep things equal. See if Wild can try and get a leg up here now. Deadshot doesn't want to step too far into the den of the defense here. A lot of damage being dealt. The Wolves are going to come out on top. Deadshot very low HP. An opportunity, though, still here for Wild, as they do have some verticality coming into play. This shotgun could be the difference maker if they come right over this rotation. It doesn't seem like that's what they want. A drone will get taken out here. Hackbolt looking to see if he can still try and get this pickup. Jag's trying to play as much defense as he can for his friend. Trying to see if they can exploit more of that verticality at the current moment, as they still have so much time to try and solve this puzzle. Deadshot still trying to work that verticality. No real aggressive front being shown from Wolves just yet. Where do they want to try and put this plant down?
Hesitation once again has killed the potentiality for Wolves to win out rounds in the past. Could very well send this round down the river yet again. Wolves trying to hyper-analyze their execute. In this case, it'll work out, though, as they get the pinch against the janitor player. Jags is all that remains inside of the clutch scenario. Get the first 2 kills needed. Goes directly for the second one and gets the down for it as well. Deadshot is all that now remains. Keep in mind, of course, the damage that he sustained earlier now comes back to bite him in a massive margin, but no! Ends up just barely clutching it out as he sinks the last bullet instead here and gives a very much-needed round over to the Wolves.
I cannot believe he sprinted. I just can't. I can't. It's hurting me. It's hurting me so bad. I just gotta say it. Oh, it's hurting me so bad, John.
Call it out.
Oh, man. Why did he run? Why did he run?
Sing your song.
Oh, why are you sprint? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. A good throwback, too. I miss that guy. A lot. But what a round there from Wolves. One that almost got shut down, and I mean, I really thought they had it, but somehow, some way, Deadshot stays alive. I mean, what is that? He has 0 HP. He's been existing on 0 HP for centuries. Just too aggressive of a look from WYLDE. They end up losing it out because of it. So WYLDE still with a heck of a lot of opportunity in their pail, John, but I mean, this bucket's got a leak right now.
Certainly does. They're trying to find a way to plug in here. WYLDE quickly looking to get themselves back on track, and they will attempt to do that with another third floor hold that they incorporate themselves into here for round number 9. Wolves, in the meanwhile, we're going to unexpected roster to try and take quick control of this one for the Dokkaebi to give them that informational play as they try to push themselves down those critical areas like Whitehall and deeper into the bar area, potentially not trying to get flanked out by any rotates through the freezer. The Nook to potentially add that critical backstab, as it were, into this execute, whether it's going to be from like White Stairs or potentially another area of the map as well. Finka also making a bit of an unexpected appearance here as well. Don't get a whole lot of her anymore, but considering that Wolves have been struggling a little bit to kind of keep themselves in the fight, as it were, especially when things get a bit tense in terms of map control, probably a pretty welcome addition to the current lineup, in all honesty.
You know what else would be a very welcome addition, John?
What's that?
Mowgli getting a kill. That's what I'm really looking
Honestly,
for right
yeah,
now.
it's getting a bit ridiculous at this point.
It is. And like, listen, I'm just saying this because Mowgli is a dear friend of mine.
Oh, here we go.
I really want him to get a kill. There it is, right there,
Thanks,
Mowgli. Oh, well, I mean, hey, he got his frag.
Yeah, he got his one, so it's all good. And to be fair, it's pretty much a done round unless we see some crazy shenanigans coming out from Hungry and T3B.
you better slow it down there, Buster.
Hungry's already given us a pretty crazy round before, and T3B has been the go-to player. And considering T3B still has cigar control,
I'm so
I honestly
scared.
don't think this is over yet. It probably is, if I'm being a realist about it, but that's
We're building this up for no reason,
fun.
but
Let's
that's
play the storyline game instead.
Exactly.
T3B with an aggressive hold. Now pushes forward. No clean angle. Player is tucked in the corner, and now he's been spotted. So that'll be the end of it. Deadshot takes him down outright in the first duel. And Wolves sustain their pacing here as they are slowly bringing this game back to a palatable point.
Isn't Deadshot a superhero or something? I think 90% positive. Wasn't he in Suicide Squad?
I think so.
Like 90%? Yeah. He was played by Will Smith, wasn't he?
Don't tell Ubisoft that.
If they make Deadshot change his name, that would be absolutely hilarious. But I mean, I was just gonna say this guy literally cannot miss. He is firing on all cylinders right now for sure. Deadshot has found himself, and that version of Deadshot, well, he's carrying Wolves right now and trying to find them big dub here on Kafe.
It's actually Headshot. It's just the H is pronounced as a D. That's just a very strange pronunciation. That's how you
Are you serious?
No.
I don't troll me
I'm
like
covering
that.
him up right
Don't,
now. You're
come
blowing
on,
it.
dude,
You're
don't
blowing
troll
it.
me like that. Don't troll me like that ever again. Oh man, I don't know. He's French.
Me a culture where they mix up
Listen,
the
my
H's
wife
and
might be
D's
French,
for
but that
pronunciation.
doesn't mean. I was gonna say my wife might be French, but that doesn't mean I know the enunciation of French. Like.
Alright, well, enough of that, as once again, Wolves sit just one round behind Wild's overall scoreline at this point. One more successful round on this attacking side, and we are right back to that even keel that we found ourselves in for maps 1 and 2 of this series as well. Neither team able to find the ultimate point they need just yet for Wild. Still in that pole position. They will not remain there for much longer. However, the path that Wolves are currently taking to bring themselves back into this one, already bringing it back from a 5-2 to a 5-4, so already some impressive comeback potential being built off of that. It's only going to continue to grow unless Wild puts a stop to it here and now with their kitchen hold.
Wolves are looking to continue to try and cultivate this bountiful harvest, as it has been coming to them in massive sweeping loads here so far. A huge nade, speaking of which, and once again, bountiful harvest for them. Wolves looking to tie things up now, and this could be the big issue for Wild, now rearing its ugly head yet again. It does not seem like they can get away from the 5-5 scoreline no matter what they do.
P4 trying to sneak the little hack tank into the site. We'll see if it works out. He's still dodging that warden. He's also kind of actually droning while this is going on too. As you can see, Mowgli winding up for a play in the silhouette behind him. But oh no, the magnet eats that nade right up. Thankfully, it doesn't eat up a whole lot of damage onto Mowgli himself. He gets himself out of the hot seat pretty quickly there. P4 is also now taking care of the player that was a worry point. Aces does get revenge though, so they're not going to be able to gain absolute prowess over Wild just yet, although Ace is certainly paying the price for that peak. As you can see, he's been brought down quite low. A nade goes forward, gets considerable damage on a pack bull as well. So all three remaining members of Wild are about half HP or worse, which is a good wind-up, but keep in mind, Wolves obviously don't have this intel directly, especially with quite a bit of that damage coming from the nades. So Wild realize this, and they're going to play right into the faces of the rest of Wolves to try and subvert those expectations and get the better of them, and indeed they shall. A double kill suddenly turns the tables. Despite the low HP for Wild, they still win it out and give themselves that penultimate round. Two opportunities here to close it down on match point.
Wild snap awake in a cold sweat, aim to win the last bit of that round out and take it, getting themselves onto the penultimate point now, looking to shut things out and guarantee themselves a bid to Gamers 8. And not only that, John, but some fat cash for a choice, or excuse me, oh my goodness.
All good.
A charity of their choice. He's getting a little bit early here for me, bud, you know. but yeah, a charity of their choice, you know, just running that up as well. But just as a reminder, you know, this is our semifinals, so still some chances, some opportunities here to be had for them to make even more down the line. So still a lot to be had here for not only the Wild, but potentially the Wolves if they're able to push this on inside of this round.
Just quick housekeeping, right, folks. Looks like I have been rocking. It's about 2 a.m. local time, and it is almost 10 a.m. So your patience with any of our vocal fumbles at this point of the morning, as it were now, is appreciated. But it does look like we are starting to come to the closing end, even if this comes back for Wolves as well. Just a few rounds left either way. So let's try to give it the best effort we can as Wild looks to close things down here and now. Another second floor hold for themselves. Wolves, of course, trying to get better of that one, but really love the sudden change up from Wild there that we got at the bitter end of round 10 right there to suddenly throw that aggression out of absolutely nowhere into the face of Wolves. They knew they were low HP. They knew if they kind of waited for the XU to come through, they weren't really going to be able to peek out and support each other on trades because of that low HP. They would still more than likely end up on the losing end of a trade battle. So they just say, all right, well, we don't really have a choice. Let's jump out. Let's get in their faces. They're not going to expect that type of play this late into the round, and that was ultimately a very smart choice, as that's exactly what happened.
Exactly that. We'll see if they can potentially get something going in a similar vein as what we'd seen inside of that previous round. As for Wolves now trying to get the early progress going on, especially off the back of this drone game and aggressive front, as we'll have Mowgli rolling in for Library, but I do believe a little bit of damage coming out onto him via potentially his own nade. T3B will actually be able to line up a kill for himself. 11 of them now to his name, 10 for aces respectively, as well as these two have been able to deal so much damage to Wolves throughout this series.
WYLDE striking true with that opening kill. No real damage going out onto anyone aside from that. However, it's going to change. Shinka is caught in the open, as is Bibu. He'll actually fall outright. Shinka's still in the fray, but now at very low HP. Wolves' opportunities are slowly falling asunder, but just when it seemed like they were down for the count, they slice their way right back into the round. Shinka, despite being at sub of 10 HP, still is able to pick up one of the 2 kills that were most recently found there. It's caused an outright freeze from WYLDE's own aggression. That won't necessarily be the smartest play when you consider how weak and vulnerable their actual site hold is now. Just one player holding the connector between them inside of Train Yard, and another player at the bottom of Whiskey Stairs, and of course that third one in Kitchen. He's more than likely going to stay there. That's Packbull, of course, as he's playing on the pulse right now, trying to give as much intel to the 2 other players as possible. But how does that Whiskey player reascend? That's the big challenge right now. Or do they just put all of the pressure on the one singular player holding in the middle of the rotate? Well, there's the answer for it, as Aces has already been found out at that midpoint. He can no longer clutch it out from the 1v2. It's going to come down to Hungry and any potential rotate we may get from Packbull. A good start from Hungry as he strikes true with that first kill, sees the rotation coming forward. This could send it down the river, and indeed it will. The double nitro confirming the one down player from the POV of Hungry, of course, and then knocking out the one that had gone to revive him. All the pressure's on for Deadshot. He needs to slot this thing down onto the ground with as much excess time as possible, and thankfully he may be able to do just that, but never mind. Jumps off the case, no longer has a choice, has to stick it, and the shots from below from Packbull end the series in the favor of WYLDE as they shut it down, get that ultimate qualification revenge against the Wolves, knock them out of the running here to qualify for Gamers 8 and send themselves onward to the European Finals tomorrow morning.
Very well done for WYLDE. I mean, what a showing, especially from T3B. I haven't got to see too much of him in recent time, and well, it was a really nice little capsule to be able to get acquainted with him and kind of the play style of WYLDE. Very fun series here, and quite the game for WYLDE at the end of the day.
And we're going to take a look at the bracket one final time, ladies and gentlemen, and see where exactly everything sits at the end of our show for today. As you can see here, WYLDE taking a 2-1 advantage over the Wolves. You can see that other series as well over on our main stream. If you're watching us on Twitch, just delete the B from your browser and you can go and watch the rest of that game, as it's still ongoing from the looks of things against BDS and M&M, waiting to get our second challenger out from that. But the winner of that game will be going up against WYLDE, of course, in the European Grand Final. Once again, just alongside our Japanese and Korean final that's going to be happening immediately before that. Those will both be best of 5s, both on the main stream as well. So expect a pretty lengthy show tomorrow. Sam and I, of course, will be on board for the Japanese and Korean final. And we'll have, I believe, X as well as Demo on, of course, for the European final. Other than that, though, I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to pretty much close things out. We may have a schedule for tomorrow to take a look at. Do we have that production, or no, are we skipping that? Okay, all good. So I believe that's going to do it for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all very much for tuning in. The Bravo stream once more time will not be live tomorrow, so make sure you are tuning in for the main stream and all the action that we have there as the Gamers Without Borders Rainbow Six event continues on.